What's up, everybody? It's your boy Bill Forster. Happy Wednesday. Hoping you all had a beautiful day. I'm just happy to be alive, man. That's all. So, during this, pandemic, this is what we doing. You know what I'm saying? We just trying to stay alive today. We got a good show coming up. It's Real Talk Chronicles. I ask you to like it, share it, subscribe to it on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go to my page, you see my name, and share it. We got a good show today, man. We really do. My co-host Kevin Branzetti is somewhere hiding in the background, but I'm sure he'll come to light real soon. But today, um, Monday, I had a good show, and I had one of the brothers here, along with two other his partners, and I'm glad Kevin McBride was able to join us today. So I had Steve Ice, and I had Steve Burt, and I had Jermaine Grant. And the connection with Steve, Jermaine, and Steve Burt, we're all Harlemites. For Kevin, I guess I'll see if I know you, or there's be degrees of separation eventually. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I've hit the asphalt and the playground and played ball with Steve and Jermaine for a long time. And during the course of my career, Jermaine was in a situation with with the state troopers, and he had got shot along with four other individuals. And it was so funny how we were just conversing about this Monday. I'm going to let Steve and Kev talk about what they do, but we were talking about this Monday, and I just said, Kevin Branzetti and myself, we talk about interaction with law enforcement and things of that magnitude. And I was just like, it was just paramount that he was talking about that he's not tainted to, police and stuff like that. And I just felt it, impelled that he would come on and talk about his story. He will be on later. He has a prior engagement, but that doesn't stop the show because I have Steve and I have Kevin to talk about anything pertaining to law enforcement because Steve is a conscious individual. I've come to find out that Kevin is works for a agency that I'll let him describe and talk about later in a few minutes, I should say. And of course, Kevin Branzetti and we worked in the 2A. So a lot of things, the degrees of separation are very small and similar. With that being said, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I ask you to like it, share it. We will be talking about a lot of stuff tonight, and we will have great conversation, which is a beautiful thing. Steve, without further ado, please tell everybody what it is that you do and your organization, and we'll bring Kevin in right after that.
Well, the bread and butter comes from the Department of Transportation Safety Education Unit, where I'm the director of the Vision Zero Street Team Unit. That's the bread and butter. But our program, the Harlem All Stars Youth Foundation, I'm a co-director of the program where we engage ourselves with underprivileged teenagers, and we take them on trips, take them out of state basketball tournaments, all expenses paid. We have mentorship. We do community service. One of the things with the program is called BELL, Basketball, Education, and Life Lessons. So that's kind of the bread and butter of what I do. And Mac, you can take it from there.
Well, I work with, first of all, my name is Kevin McBride. I work with Homeland Security. I'm a lieutenant in the lower Manhattan area. Same as I'm the other co-director of the Harlem All Stars. Steve and I sat down one day and we put this organization together. The way we was taught, we try to give it right back. Gentleman by the name of Randy Bubba McGee instilled a lot of positive and did everything in the world for us. And so we wanted to continue his legacy. Unfortunately, he's passed a couple of years ago, but we're trying to continue the good works that he had instilled in us.
Awesome. So that's a beautiful thing. So, Kev, let me ask you a question. Steve and I, we talked about this earlier. Monday. You being law enforcement, a branch of law enforcement, is this one of your ways of you giving back to your community? And if so, give me an idea how you got involved in this.
Well, being with the Police Athletic League and just being from Harlem and seeing so many of our young men get in trouble. Again, we wanted to put a organization together using basketball because that was easier to get their ear, and just continue to be mentors and talk to them about how to stay out of trouble. Because once you get in it, it's kind of difficult to try to cleanse yourself from the record they put on you and so forth. So we're trying to keep the kids out of trouble, give them a safe haven. We need Steve, I know, spoke on this on Monday. We need a home. But in the interim of getting that home, we just try to talk to our kids any way we can. When we got them in the park, we got them in a gym we rented. They can call us. We follow up with them, help them with whatever we can help them with, just to try to keep them out of trouble.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster, tonight. I have Steve Ice and I have Kevin McBride in the building, and they are positive individuals doing positive stuff. I have a shout out to everybody that's watching. Earl, I said, Wayne, I see you. Don is in the building. Steve, we played. Yeah, Don.
What's up? What's up?
Yeah. Gwen Mosley, how you doing? She says, hello, fellas. I see you, James Baker. Gwen says, how can one get into your program? Does the child need to be a resident of Harlem? Either one of you want to answer that?
No, not at all. And any teen has an opportunity to come to our program. The one thing that we stressed with our program, unlike other organizations that look for the top players in the city, or you have to be an elite player to be in their program, or you have to pay to be in their program. We take the kids that probably are just under that level, and then we groom them and teach them how to become an elite player. So anyone can join. You don't have to be necessarily from Harlem. We have had kids come as far as Queens to play with us.
Well,
yeah, let me just
go ahead.
Let me just add to that, Steve. And our kids come with a little chip on their shoulder as well, and we like that because they've been turned down or turned away from the supposedly elite programs, and then they're a little more inclined to listen. And we have excellent teachers. I mean, it's about 5 of us: Steve Bird, Steve Ice, Jermaine, Herb, Bryant, myself. We have an outstanding team, and we all bring something to the table in terms of when we're on that court and off the court. And so our kids won about, if I'm not mistaken, Steve, about 5 or 6 championships within the last 3 years or so, because we teach them. We take them, we do it the old fashioned way. That's the only way we know how to do it, because we were taught that way. And so, for example, we stop practice in the middle of practice. If somebody make a mistake, we make them freeze. And then we show them right there on the spot, you could have done this, you could have done that, look ahead. Steve knows one of my things is I always say, trust your eyes. Trust your eyes, trust what you see. You see somebody open in front of you, give them the ball. So we teaching them how to work together. A lot of times they come in from environments that they're not used to working together. So the stuff we teach them on the court helps them off the court as well.
Awesome. Steve, if you're online now on Facebook, go to the my page, and people are asking for the contact information for people to give it to them. So I just wanted you to type it in while we're talking. I want you to give it to them later, but they probably won't listen right now. I mean, or catch it. Gwen said, "What's the age group?" Kev, Steve,
17 and under.
Okay.
17 years old and under.
Yeah, we start them. You can be as young as 13, 14 years old to get in our program. Like PAL did with us, we don't close any doors.
Nope.
Absolutely.
We're not that program that's going to tell you no.
We don't throw kids away. We gonna fight with them. We gonna teach them. They keep coming. We gonna keep teaching.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. After when Steve and I spoke Monday, and after I found out all the players in part that he was involved with along with yourself, Kevin, I told them that I will assist any way I can. I will try to use any contacts I will to help you guys keep your foundation strong. Because the bottom line is, positive people don't connect like they're supposed to. You understand what I'm saying? And we need that. There's so much diversity and divisiveness in this country today that, like, I'm not about that. Steve's not about that, and I'm assuming you're not about that because like-minded people do things together. So that's why I applaud you guys, and that's why I was glad to come back. And also with this gist of this topic on Wednesday shows is that we talk about interaction with law enforcement. We talk about police issues that are prevalent in this world today. We also talk about how our youth can survive. And let me ask you, from a law enforcement standpoint, being a man of color, what do you kind of give these guys from your standpoint that maybe a Steve or Jermaine can't give? But Jermaine has a whole nother perspective, and that's why I'm glad he'll be coming on later. But like a Steve Burt can give, you and I can give a different perspective. I mean, I'm just willing to be a part of your organization to help you, as a guest speaker any day. But what do you kind of tell them how to interact with law enforcement?
Well, that's a good question. I had a parent to ask me that. One of our parents on the team asked me the same question. And I simply said, just comply with the officer. Even if you feel he wrong or she's wrong for whatever they're saying to you, the easiest thing is to comply, because you live to fight another day. If you feel that they're not right in whatever they're telling you to do or they're accusing you of, that's bad, of course. However, if you don't comply now with whatever direction that they've given you, whatever directive that they've given you, it only makes it worse now.
Right.
And so, to me, my statement to anyone, the young kids, anybody that asks me or we talk about this, is comply, to live to fight another day. I think what happens is, with a lot of people, there's a lot of people around, as an audience, if an officer says something to you, may be embarrassing. And so now the person can't feel like they're being chunked. So now they want to, what's the word I'm looking for? They want to challenge the officer. And that's not good, because some people are scared. Some of these officers are very scared on approach. And so they got their hands on their weapons already. And when they order you to do this or that, and you don't, now their intensity level has grown because you're not complying. So now they're scared. And so when somebody gets scared and they happen to have a weapon, most times good things don't happen after that.
Absolutely.
So my statement, I tell my wife, I tell anybody, just comply. Just comply to live to fight another day.
I appreciate that. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I have two good brothers with me tonight. We're waiting for another. And also, Kevin Branzetti is somewhere in the world today. I have Kevin McBride and have Steve Ice. Steve, with that being said, what do you tell? I know you mentioned you have sons. What do you tell your sons? And also as yourself, I mean, we still as a man, Kevin and I, we have a trump card, as I say. I hate to use that word now, you know what I'm saying, in lieu of what's happening in the White House. But we have a trump card that can get us out of predicament. But as yourself, being a black man, God forbid you get put in a situation where you have to have an interaction with law enforcement. How do you posture yourself, and then what do you tell your children?
So I'll kind of piggyback off of what Kev was just saying, is to kind of comply. Mm-hmm. One of the things, you try to make yourself like personable to that police officer by calling him, "Oh, Officer Robinson, what did I do? Officer James, is everything okay?" And talking like that, sometimes the officer feels a little more comfortable. Like, he's addressing me like he knows me. And the officer may, tend to, if he was a little stiff, he may not be as stiff now. But all you can honestly do is tell anyone to comply and just, try not to get into a confrontation, because once it goes to a certain level, it's hard to come back from it.
Absolutely. I had just recently put on Facebook an interaction with a man was in LA, and I guess the subway system, usually in the subway systems, I know it was in New York. I don't know if well, I assume like it was in LA, that they don't want you eating on the platform or on the train. So this individual was with, I think, a young lady, and he was finishing up his sandwich before the train came. And the officer stopped him. Out of everybody, a man of color, I guess he walked past everybody and he engaged with him. The video, I felt exactly what you guys are saying. Listen, cop is an ass. You want to pick, you want to nitpick on eating a sandwich. You know what I'm saying, from a deli or whatever, McDonald's, or it wasn't anything outlandish. It was a little like a steak, or like a sausage sandwich or egg sandwich, and he really wanted to give him a ticket for it. Which a lot of times we have to understand out there, as insulting as something like that is, you still have to just go along with it, because the bottom line is you don't have the power to show restraint and just be combative. So come back another day, and like I said, if you want to take it to court and fight it, you feel like it was racially profiled or biased, then that's something that you can definitely fight. But just to be combative, and now the man got himself arrested, where he was probably just going to get a ticket. And everybody out there, please, I tell the youth today, if you get a ticket, pay the ticket. The ticket is in lieu of an arrest, where you're not getting handcuffed. It was the fact that an officer would give you a ticket and just say that he's verified your information and you don't have any warrants. So he's writing this ticket, and he didn't have to take you in to the precinct. So pay the tickets. I know there are people that have gone on in their lives. I'm sure we are all around the same age, that when you were younger, you didn't want to pay the ticket, or you didn't tell your mother or your father you got a ticket because you didn't want to get in trouble or reprimanded. And then next thing you know, you end up and you pop a warrant. And this carries you into a city agency. I mean, we all civil servants. You understand what I'm saying? So, and Kevin, you're Homeland Security. So it's a different. Are you still active, or are you retired now?
No, I'm here. I'm there.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely will let you, nitpick and talk about what you feel comfortable to do, because the bottom line is I want to protect your profession. You know what I'm saying? So,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
let me say this though. Let me say this with that scenario you just gave. Maybe the officer. Let me start. Maybe that gentleman that was eating on the platform had just taken some medicine, and we know a lot of times you take medicine, you got to eat, and he might have been feeling lightheaded, but the officer may not have known that. All he knows is he going by what his duties are, and the fact of the matter is you don't supposed to eat on the platform or what have you. So you take the ticket, knowing that I'll go to, when I go to pay it, or it gives you an option to fight it. You go fight. And then you produce your documents that, I'm on certain types of medication. So once I take it, I have to eat immediately after that because I feel lightheaded and so forth. 9 times out of 10, that judge may throw that out. But you're able now, once again, by complying and not causing a scene, you're able now to fight another day. Now you make that simple situation into something else, like Steve said. Now it's no longer even about eating on the platform. Now it's the cop felt threatened because you raised your hand a certain way, your voice got loud. It just took a whole different dimension once you don't comply.
Absolutely. And Steve, I'm gonna let you come in, but I just want to read what Don Don said. He said, it's true, we do. He said, it is expected reluctantly as well. We are blue until out of the uniform. Absolutely. Marlene said, what's up? When you are fighting another day, what can you do to document what happened when it could be your words against theirs when making a complaint? Kev, I'll let you chime in on that, and then Steve, he give me what would you do from a civilian standpoint?
Sure.
Well, I think what you can do nowadays, anyway, a lot of times people immediately pull out their cell phones soon as an officer interacts with anybody. You pull yours out. If he's talking to you, if you're around anybody, they pull theirs out. So I mean, you could probably tape the conversation or video it while you're interacting with that officer, because it's not against the law to take your phone out and video. So he can't tell you that you got to put your phone away. He can't tell you that. And so with him seeing you taping it, generally his position, if it was arrogant and crazy, he may come down a notch. But there's other people on the platform, on the sidewalk, wherever you may be, at the store. People stand around and show the video, or start videoing. And then afterwards, once you continue to comply, maybe you have it on video. Maybe somebody in the store or the sidewalk can send you the video. You can interact with them after the situation is subsided, and you can get a video, sent to you. And when you go to fight in court, you show the videos with this technology we have today.
Ice, what would you do as a John Q. Public? You work for the city, got a city agency, and I'm gonna say that because there was a time before I became a police officer, it got pulled over, and it was just crazy how the officer was old. It was almost like he was upset that I worked at a city agency, and then I was like, well, I'm like, yo, I work for the mayor's office, and he was like, so, you know what I'm saying? And I like Kevin is coming in right now, and it was so funny how I try to always tell him that there's so much disrespectful officers out here. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, give me what would you do? You see a situation out there that it's not to your liking. How do you handle that from afar, or God forbid you get pulled? You get in a situation where you have to have an interaction with law enforcement.
Fortunately, I don't have the trump card as you guys have, but I do have a card that I can play, and that, believe it or not, is the Department of Transportation.
Exactly.
I've been pulled over a few times, and they see the ID around my neck. They see a placard in the window, and you work for DOT. All right, no, you good. Again, like Kev said, the phone is the easiest thing. That wasn't obviously back in the day. We weren't doing that. But that can also be a double-edged sword, because some police officers get upset as soon as you pull out a phone. Like, what are you doing? Put that phone away. So that can be a little, tricky as well.
What's so funny? Let me just interject, and while I have you on that topic, and I'm glad you could chime back in. That the one thing, and I'm sure Kevin can attest to this, some officers hate to feel challenged. You understand what I'm saying? Like, my private is not that small where I get insulted that quick. When I was working, the fact that you would converse back with me, you would say something to me. With that being said, I still know I have the power because I'm a man. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm a police officer, I'm doing my job. And the only reason why I'm pulling you over or interacting with you is because of a crime, or a lieu of something, or a violation. Otherwise than that, I have no rap. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise than just what it is. But it's a shame that I noticed that there are certain officers out here that have exercised that power for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? The way they see you, the way they judge you, because I'm sure, I don't know if Kevin has ever been pulled over, and he's had to pull out that instrument that says who he is, but it's a whole different mentality. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, Steve, so go ahead, continue on what you were saying about, like you said, the fact that you're Department of Transportation, you, you,
Yeah, I can kind of play off of that in my situations, but it's funny because with my Vision Zero program, we deal with NYPD on a regular basis. When we're out with my street teams, we'll set up tables. I have guys out in the street passing out literature to drivers, and then I have a team that's on the streets that's passing out literature and things to pedestrians. And NYPD from different precincts are assigned to work with us. Sometimes they treat us like this assignment is beneath them. They won't even get out the vehicle. And then we kind of look and laugh like, wow, we're out here trying to save lives. And then others, we have a little authority, but they'll come in and be like, no, this is NYPD. We're taking over this. So it's a double-edged sword is what I'll say.
yeah.
And dealing with it either from the DOT perspective or just as a general citizen.
You know, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I have to apologize to my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I didn't send him the information, so I apologize. How are you doing, Kevin?
Very good, Bill. Thank you.
Good, good. Kevin McBride and Steve Ice. Kevin worked in the 2-8 with us, Steve and Kev, during the time when even when Jermaine got into that situation. So that's why it was important that I wanted Kev to come on this segment with us and have Jermaine tell his story, because a lot of times the beautiful thing about Jermaine that he was discussing Monday was that he still wasn't bitter. You understand what I'm saying? And that's paramount in a world today where we have so much divisiveness and there's so much disdain for law enforcement. And you know, Kevin McBride, let me ask you a question. How is your relationship with people when they find out that you are in law enforcement?
It doesn't change, because I think for me, that don't dictate who I am as a person. I control that. And so I'm blessed to be able to be in that position downtown when, for example, some people, they see they're very upset with law enforcement for the most part, and various reasons. However, when my team calls supervisor to a situation and I get there, my first thing is I pray. As I'm on my way, I'm praying to diffuse any situation, bring it down. Let's bring it down. So when I get there, for example, I'm pleasant. I try to be very pleasant, because I know people's their tension is high. Things are rough. When my team calls me, then it's gotten rough. And so here's somebody else is going to tell me, the person may be thinking, now the supervisor comes, he's going to also tell me what to do and how to do it. And so their intensity is high. And so my first mindset is to try to bring it down. Let me bring it down. Let me introduce myself. Let me listen to their side of the situation. And let's see if we can find a middle ground to where we all can go home, or the person can go where they needed to go. And just, it's not about trying to exercise your authority, because at the end of the day, we do have the authority. But it's better to try to diffuse. Let's try to diffuse the tension. Let's bring the tension down. And normally, 99% of the time, that works.
So, Kev, let me ask you a question. And for people out there who don't know, give people insight into what Homeland Security really is, and what is their function, and maybe what is your function as a supervisor?
Well, I'm at the federal building, and so we have a lot of different agencies downtown at that federal building. Immigration, certain courts, immigration courts, and Social Security courts, and hearings, and so forth. So, people come sometime and they don't know what their fate may be once they get within that agency, within the building. And so their intensity level may be high. They may be running late. They're scared about what may happen. And so my officers, they have to address that, and generally they do. But every now and then you get somebody that's a little irate, if you will. And so they now have to call the supervisor. I come, and again, as I'm coming, I'm praying. And I'm praying to keep us all safe, the individual, the team, myself, because it ain't about, exercising this authority and if you will, punking somebody. It ain't about that. It's about just trying to diffuse the tension. Let's bring the tension down. Sometimes people just want to be heard and not ordered around. Just hear them out. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. And once I hear them out, then they hear me, they understand that I'm not here to try to punk them. I'm not ordering them around. I'm talking to them like the human beings that they are. And we generally be able to diffuse most situations with that approach. Most 90% is diffused with that approach.
I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you all a question, and this is just on how we are as men carry ourselves in dealing with certain personalities. Kev, my Kevin Branzetti, just you were a supervisor. I think you have excellent people skills and how you interact with people. You're not a fire starter. You're more like you try to stifle a situation. So this question is for all three of you, but I'll start with you, Kevin, and then I'll go to you, Steve Ice, and then I'll come to you, Kevin McBride. How do you deal with personalities? Like if you when you had somebody that worked under you or worked with you, and they were just an antagonizer or they just were nasty, because not everybody's a people person. We all have jobs that we've worked where people are not, if you interact with people, doesn't mean you're a people person. And a lot of people out there in the world don't understand that. They'll be like, oh, well, officer, da 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 da. Well, listen, all he was to be professional. Nobody said he had to be nice. And I think a lot of times people mix that up. I'm not saying being nice doesn't come with the job, because you can be, I've gotten so much out this world for just being who I am, being a people's person. But I think a lot of times you just can't get water out of rock. If a person is not a people's person, he's just miserable. His wife don't love him. His kids hate him. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not getting any, or the female is in a messed up relationship. It goes both ways. It goes hands in hand. The supervisor is just making work with a person he doesn't like, anything. So Kev, let me ask you a question. How do you deal with that kind of employee or coworker and try to make your job easy?
We've all had that cop we've either worked with or has worked for you, right? Who is hot-headed or just doesn't like anybody. What you try to do is keep them away as much as possible from the public, right? There are cops, and Bill, we talked about it the other day.
Yeah.
We had one when we first got to the 2-8 who lived behind the desk. Right? I won't say his name here. Funny guy, good guy, but on the street he was a hothead, and the CO knew he was a hothead, and that's where he stayed. Yeah. So you try to keep your hotheads out of the public limelight as much as you can. And then when you're working that night, right? Your cars, who's going out, who's who. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones you respond to everything on. Yeah. If they're going to a job, I'm going too. Right? They need the extra supervision. And then there are senior guys, or not even senior guys, just guys you just know that can keep, calm a situation, understand the rules of the road, and you don't have to be up there. But the hothead, I'm gonna be in his face a lot more.
Yeah.
And by being there means just being there. It doesn't mean I don't get nasty. Never got nasty with somebody on the street, a fellow cop. That's for back home.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, yeah.
Exactly. Steve, in your profession or just in life, how do you deal with people that you see sometimes they're just combative, they just don't know how to interact with people, and it might cause friction in what you're trying to do as a businessman. Like, when you go to work, when you get that day check, there's a certain protocol and a requirement that you have to stand by. And also, in similar, when you're dealing with your organization, that you can't have one of these little kids curse out maybe a ref or a person like that. So how do you pacify the personality?
Well, before I even answer your question, I want to thank your Kevin for disproving something, Black people are not always late. Thank you, Kev, for
Well,
I might tell a story later on that one.
Yeah. But and the beautiful thing about that, I got to take some of that ownership because I forgot to send him the link. As much as I, as he's here, he's with me every Wednesday. But with that being said, I don't know why I thought I was so busy worrying about you getting it and stuff like that, Steve. I forgot to send it to him. So, I apologize. He might have been late anyway, but I just say, nah, let me stop.
I was waiting so long to get that one out. But
yeah, I can tell.
To answer your question is just by my response to what I just said. I use humor a lot. When someone is kind of hot-headed, I've worked with some folks from DOT. I know we're out in the public. Someone says something to them sideways. They're ready to go after them. So I'll try to use a little humor. I'll try to, a little comedy, say something funny, ease the tension a little bit, and then, pull them to the side and talk to them that way. Same thing with the officer. I had an officer pull me over. This was years ago though, and I couldn't help myself. It was raining, and he said he wanted me to get out the vehicle, and I said, "Well, it's raining. Why don't you get inside?" And he looked at me and just started laughing. It's like, you know what? Just go ahead. Just be safe. Go ahead. So
yeah, exactly.
That's just me, but that's my personality. We try to instill that to the kids as well. With basketball, I'll kind of throw that in. The conflict resolutions. When you're on the court, somebody fouls you real hard. How are you going to deal with this? You know this kid is talking smack to you. How are you going to deal with this? Don't feed into it. Tell them something funny. Someone just scored on me, just dunked on me, and like, yeah, I just dunked on you. Yeah, man, you really good. You should be in the pros. I'd say something crazy, and the guy look at me like I can't even get in his head. So it's just humor with me.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Kevin McBride, I know you were saying, and like you said, you're dealing with different people coming to you, different nationalities, different cultures. How do you pacify? How do you calm down that officer that is having a bad day or just doesn't want to be there, and he's kind of disrespectful, or he's turning up? Put your ID in the back, put your stuff in the basket, move along, be quiet. What do you mean? I can't hear you. Speak up. How do you deal with those kind of officers?
Well, like Kevin said earlier, what I would do normally, the procedure is if somebody is doing that, I'm gonna try to move them away from the day-to-day public dealings, because I know that officers, it will be a problem because you get to know your team. However, once I get to the scene, I'm called now and I get there, I separate that, I get the information from the officers, and then I separate the person away from the officer. So I'll take the person away, we'll walk away, and I'll get their version of the issue and see if I can work it out. But I definitely try to separate the two, or the my officer with whomever they was having a problem. I think if you separate them, you got a better chance of probably getting at least diffusing somewhat of the issue. Keeping them together, it will only escalate. It generally escalates if you keep two people that's at odds with one another. It just keeps it negative. So I generally try to separate the two.
Awesome. How long you been with them, Kev?
12 years now.
Okay,
12.
Good. And Steve, how long you been with Trans DOT?
Oh, I've been with DOT since 1999.
Okay, awesome. So the bottom line is we've all put in our time to do certain things. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forson, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti. Today we have Steve Ice with us. We have Kevin McBride. Steve, tell the people again the name of your organization real quick so Kevin can catch up. And if he wasn't able to listen, just let the people know what you and Kevin's organization is, please.
It's the Harlem All Stars Youth Foundation, and it's a program designed to help underprivileged teens, not necessarily from Harlem, but just underprivileged teens. We take them out of town, basketball trips. We have mentorship programs. We do community service. For example, we just did the Canaan Baptist Church on 116th Street. They have a senior home there, and they have one on 118th Street. And we just fed 150 of those seniors, and were acknowledged by Channel 5, Fox 5, as Heroes of the Day. So, and we make sure that our kids are part of that. So that's what we do.
I think that's awesome, and I appreciate that, because a lot of times, and it's just so funny how the degrees of separation. When Kevin and I were in the 2-8, and Steve, that's when you and I played ball together all the time. You know, Kevin may have never met you. You know what I'm saying? And you know, at the time, I remember Kev, Eddie C, and Leahy. You know, you guys were like the three wonder guys. You know, y'all would go getters. Y'all was that fresh meat, that fresh blood. That, you know, you were all about activity but you all were gentlemen. You understand what I'm trying to say? So, I mean, like Forgione, Ralph came over and played ball with us. Like, you know, Jonas, rest in peace to Jonas, came over and played ball with us. But this is how we interacted with Steve and them on Thursday nights. And yes, and you know, with the Hawkins and the Lees and the leaders and all the Bakers, this is what we did. If you played ball in the 2-8, this is where we all went over there with Transit and the postal office, the brothers we laugh at. But I say all that to say, and then this young brother Jermaine is coming up, and he was like our prodigy. You know, he was like the up and coming dude, and we all saw ourselves in him, or we saw somebody that we felt could go to another level besides where we were. You know what I'm saying? Even me playing Division III ball or whatever, Steve playing ball. I don't know if Kev played ball, but you know, we saw something, and you know, Don is in the build. Don is on site. So when in 1999, when he had this situation, it was devastating for us. And I use the word devastating because it was almost like, no, it couldn't happen. Not to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude doesn't bother anybody. He don't even curse. You know what I'm saying? Like when like he said Monday, like if I filed him, like damn was like what? Like, you know what I'm saying? He was the epitome of what you wanted a young black man to be in Harlem, in the community. So, you know, I'm going to start with you, Kevin. I'm going to finish with you, and I'm going to let you comment, Steve. But Kev, I know you know Jermaine's story. When you found out about it, I don't know if you knew Jermaine when it happened, but when you found out what happened and the story that happened, what was your whole take on that whole situation?
I didn't know it was him initially. Right. I heard the story, but I didn't put two and two together until later. However, I just knew back then the state troopers was definitely racial profiling. If you wanted to go down the turnpike and you wore baseball caps like many of us do, that was a no-no. That was like a sign for them to pull you over, because they felt just about every black person that was going up and down the turnpike was moving drugs. And so, which wasn't true by far, but that's how they was racial profiling. And so when I heard it about the four of them, it was devastating, because when the story, came out, they were on their way back to school. They had no drugs. They didn't do anything wrong. Unfortunately, at that time, they were black. And so they pulled them over and then came up with a story that, they were attempting to attack them, and that's why they started shooting, apparently. And then it came out, that, nah, you got the wrong guys. These dudes are school guys. They're going back to school. They're good guys, no records, no nothing, no drugs, no nothing. And so then, the investigating went, it was just the grace of God they didn't die. because as many shots that was shot at them while they were in that car was just unbelievable.
Absolutely. And Steve, I'm coming to you, and then Kev, I have a question for you too. But Steve, now you close to Jermaine,
Right.
you know, what went through your mind when when you found out? Because like I said, I know when Don and Kev and all of, talking about Hawkins and all of us and the 2-8, and I'm just saying the 2-8 family that played with him. When we heard it, we was like, nah, this couldn't have happened to him. So, like, give us some insight. Like, what did you feel? What was your mental? What did you feel when you heard about your boy? You know what I'm saying? Like just got shot. Go ahead.
It was crazy because when he got shot, what I recall, and I know you said Don is on the line. We were actually in the gym, and somebody came in and mentioned that, and we just stopped playing ball, and everybody was talking about it like Jermaine got shot. Jermaine. You know, it was crazy. The reason I will say that we were the guys that were non-police officers that played ball with you guys, and I'll speak for me in particular, were not like just pissed at police officers in general and painted them in the same brush was because we were dealing with you guys, and you guys had showed us so much love, allowing us to play with you. And I remember I told you about the incident when one of your superiors came into the gym and tried to pull us out and was saying you guys had your guns and your shields and you guys stood up for us. So because of that relationship, we knew it was some bad officers and we felt real bad about it, but we didn't look at you guys like, oh, y'all suckers too because y'all police. You know what I mean? So we were all devastated, man. We were all devastated.
Exactly. So Kevin Branzetti, I'm coming to you. You know, what's so funny? You and I, we always talk about how we can sew the community back together with the police department. We understand that there's such diversity right now, divisiveness, and we can sit here and we can all nitpick and try to find out why. And now I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you all, why do you think that is? Kevin and I, we try to chop it up every week on how do we talked about why we think it is, but we're just trying to solve a problem. And Kev, I always ask you because I know we use the terminology with you about bleeding blue. Like, how does that make you feel that when you hear about a young man trying to do the right thing? And when we talk sidebar, I was like, yo, he's not even bitter with police. You know what I'm saying? And the first thing you was like, yo, that's good. And that's why, his story was so prevalent that I wanted people to hear it. And I hope he's able to get in tonight and give some insight, which we'll try to hold on as long as we can, because I just want him to tell his story, because his story is so, for the African American community that have some tenure on this earth, it was so cornbread, Earl and me. You know what I'm saying? Like Jermaine was like that dude. The worst that he was going to play is Division I ball if he didn't go someplace. You know what I'm saying? That was the worst. And he was just a gentleman. Like I said, I don't even remember hearing him cursing. So I say this to Kevin and you, like, how does it make you feel that and these officers were indicted, charged, and everything, that you hear, and it just, like, Kev, I'm kind of lost with words, because people of color for so many years have said, look at this racial profiling, and look at this situation, and then you have an officer like yourself that just all he wants to do is his job. You know what I'm saying? All you want to do is your job. Like you said, you're second generation. You just want to do your job, and then you're like, you try to give the police the benefit of the doubt, and then here they come and F it all up, state troopers, protocol. So now I'm sure you can understand the anger of Black people or brown people. But I mean, I just wanted to get your intake on it, just from what we were saying until you hear the story. Just give me some insight on what you're feeling and thinking, Kev.
But it's heartbreaking to listen to it, right? We've torn apart a lot of these cases, and we try to bring different perspectives and listen to people and give our opinions, and we have lots of thoughts on one of the problems out there is the training, and we don't have a national standards, right? Yeah, I mean, shooting 101 in NYPD, you can't shoot a car.
Yeah, right,
and we sometimes we even make. I don't want to bring light of it into this scenario, but Steve allowed jokes, so we'll make jokes here,
yeah.
right? We joke about like, shooting the car is like the dumbest thing you could do. It works well on TV. You shoot the car coming at you. If you shoot it in the front passenger side tire, the car will always flip over you as the officer, right? It'll never hit you. It never touches you. It miraculously flips over into the air, and you're safe. We don't shoot cars. It's in our standards, our rules. There's there's only a couple of exceptions in life, right? I'm dangling from that, they got me trapped in the car and he's driving off with it. I'm hanging out, I'm shooting, right? There's a couple of things, but for the most part, bullet doesn't beat car.
Yeah.
So, that's standard. I loved hearing Steve just talk about the interaction because of your interaction and playing ball with the guys back then, how that changed your mindset of cops. And that's the other thing we talk about, Bill, right? We don't talk too much. We don't hang out together. We're cops. And it's not I can't even say it's necessarily the cops' fault. This is how we're brought in, right? You go to the academy, you're sent to a precinct, you do your job. You got this is 8 hours a day. And then they send you home and go do this. And there's very little talk about, what we're supposed to actually be doing, right? Like, yeah, we're supposed to stop the guy with the gun. And every cop wants to lock up the rapist, right? And put him away for the rest of their lives. But we're supposed to be helping a community, and sometimes that takes a little bit of, thought and ingenuity and it, not being a robot, So I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here a little, Bill.
No, go please, please. No.
But so the question at hand was, I believe, how does it make me feel? It breaks my heart to hear this. Like I said, I've never heard it, and I'm intrigued to truly hear it from his side, because we're Monday morning quarterbacking these things, but to actually touch the person who is sitting in that car means something.
Yeah, because what's so funny, Kev, the bottom line is we always hear when we a lot of law enforcement, like you say, and I just use the terminology that says bleed blue for Kevin McBride and Steve Ice. A lot of law enforcement on the other side, and Kevin McBride, you may understand this, they always say, I want to hear the whole story or the facts. Steve Ice, this is what a lot of times it comes from the internal aspect. Well, before we make a judgment, I want to hear the story. I want to hear all the facts. Sometimes, the facts are what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because like I've always told people, when people always come, like the barbershop conversations, or people always pull me over and stop. And when I say pull me over, I'm talking about coming out the building or wherever you can catch me. People that know me, oh, well, Bill, let me ask you this police question. Damn near, sometimes I can't even get where I want to go because I have to be like the analyst to all cops in the world. And with that being said, you have to explain different ideologies and mentalities. So I say that to say, when somebody asks a question, I always tell them, even if it's in favorable of the law, the officer, I have to say, or if it's not, I have to say, wait a minute. You know me. If that situation occurred and I did it, if I shot somebody 3 times, whatever, what would you say? Oh, I would say, well, he deserved it because I know you from Harlem, or you this and that, whatever. Okay, so sometimes you got to find out what happened. But now, with that being said, the same thing for the community when a Jermaine Grant and all these other individuals, like I got sidebar today when I put out that Jermaine might be on the show, what was going to be on the show tonight. I got sidebarred, and people was like, oh, I know the other guy that was in the car. I knew the other guy that was in the car. I grew up with this guy. So I'm like, okay, I don't know them. You know what I'm saying? I just know Jermaine. And it was just because he refreshed my memory Monday that I was like, well, I hopefully he can come back. You know, everybody out there, this is Real Talk Chronicles. You know me. If I say I'm going to do something, it's going to be done. Jermaine had a prior podcast that he had to speak on. Hopefully he can come in and chime in. If not, Steve, I'm sure we'll make sure we can get him back, and so he can so he can come in and talk about it. But the beautiful thing about it is it's a beautiful thing that Kevin McBride and Steve Ice are here. Monday we had Steve Ice, Steve Burt, and Jermaine, and we talked about their foundation and the organization because the bottom line is what they're doing is they're fighting for the community, they're giving back to the community. They're also doing a code drive. Kev or Steve, either one of you, real quick, you know, just give us some insight on the code drive.
Well, Steve, I'll take this one. The code drive, we're joining with Canaan Baptist Church again. We're doing it December 13th. I believe that's I'm sorry, December 12th, I believe.
Yes.
And it's just about giving back. Unfortunately, we're in a rough time right now. I don't need to tell y'all that. We all know that. And so God has blessed us. There's no question about that. You know, the team. I work with some outstanding men. Steve Ice, outstanding. Steve Burt, outstanding. Bryant, Jermaine, our coach Butter. And so we got together and we got some coats. I think we might have about 100 coats and at this point. And we're just going to give back and work with Canaan. And we're getting together with them. So I don't know how many coats they have, but we can help anybody. Winter's coming, it's cold now. People are a little down on their luck right now. And so we just want to give back. That's how we was raised. Again, Randy Bubba McGee from PAL. He did everything for us, man. If we were hungry, he fed us. We needed a coat. He clothed us. I mean, we needed a tutor for math. He found a tutor. I mean, you name it, he did it. And so we just got to give back. It's just important to do that. You know, God allows me to sleep good at night. I know my team does as well, because, you know, we're positive. We don't do anything to people negatively, and we're giving back. And it's time of need right now. So,
Kev, I want you to stay with me on that topic right now. Tell me, I want to ask you all, and I'm going to go to Kevin McBride, Steve Ice, and then I'll go to you, Kevin Branzetti. But tell me what it is to have a good mentor in your life, a good positive role model, and you know, for all of us, because the bottom line is we've all had somebody that we felt could be some kind of tutelage to us. So Kevin McBride, tell me about that. Steve Ice, and then go ahead, Kevin Branzetti. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Randy Bubba McGee.
Okay.
Wouldn't be here. He was a father figure, the uncle figure, the big brother. I mean, you named it. God sends angels down, so many angels down, and he was definitely one of them. And so if he wasn't at that center, oh my God. I mean, he left. I know Steve mentioned it the other day. He used to leave that center open. That center's supposed to close at 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock. We're in there at 11 and 12 at night. He kept us off the street. He fed us. He clothed us. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, man. You know, I get emotional about it. Steve Ice knows that.
Yeah, right.
Remarkable man. Remarkable.
But you know what's so funny, Kev, and you know, I appreciate the sentiments, and I understand. I can respect the emotions, because the bottom line is a lot of times we as people don't understand what somebody, or the person doesn't even understand what they meant to us and what they did for us, because there are some people that I can sit back and name right now that have been so instrumental in my life, that have caused me to be the conscious man that I am. And I had a father that was in my life. You understand what I'm trying to say? So Kevin McBride, I understand exactly. There are different facets, and there are people that have kept me out of the street to the level of real and you know, dealing with the street. But I can always feel that, you know, shout out like to like Laverne White. You know, he was my grammar school basketball coach, my gym teacher, but he gave us a place where we could go in Our Lady of Lords. And I'm, a grammar school kid, Catholic high school, Catholic school. Like he gave everybody, it was an after school program that we paid like $1 or $5 and we joined the after school program. And Friday night, the whole neighborhood would go to this gym and play ball. So I understand everything that you're feeling, and I appreciate your emotions because the bottom line is we don't have that today. And I appreciate what you men are doing to give back to your community. So I salute you with that, and I really mean that with all
Let me
sincerity.
give you an example, and I'm gonna take this out of Steve's book, Steve Ice's book. Steve he wasn't doing the best he could do in school, high school. And, we were all in the lobby of the PAL, and apparently Steve Ice's mother came and spoke to Bubba about that, unbeknownst to all of us. And so Steve come walking into the PAL, and
You can really tell this story,
Randy,
Ken?
yeah, I got to tell it. Because the beating that he had gotten from Bub and another man that was just as good as Bub, on that level named Gilbert Earl, the beating that he had gotten for not doing well in school, and that changed my life, man. Because when I saw the beating that he had taken, it wasn't a game, man. I mean, they beat him. They beat him. And all I could watch and say to myself is, I'm not getting that kind of beat. No, I can't do that.
Yo, Kev, you didn't want that smoke, right? Exactly.
No, that was some serious smoke, man. I mean, and all I heard initially was, Bub came out, they locked him in this vestibule, and I heard Bub say to Steve, so you just not gonna do right in school, huh? That was all I heard. And then the beating started. I don't know if they had to carry him out of there after that. It was amazing. It was amazing. Nowadays, they probably would have got arrested. Yeah, nowadays, if that happened, they probably would have gotten arrested for it. But back then, and so we all stood there and watched that destruction. And most of us, thank God, was like, nah, that's one I ain't gonna play with. We gonna take care of school business for sure. And so that was the type of guy he was, man. I mean, if you did wrong, it was coming. But he was gonna help you do right. He was gonna help in any way possible. And my mother grown to love him. I mean, there was times I would go home, Steve knows this, there was times I would go home crying that he beat me for whatever reason. And she said, well, you did it. You know you did it, so you got to take what's coming. And so I couldn't even go home and try to get her to come back and fuss at him. It was like, nah, well, you did it. You did whatever. If he beat you, he ain't beat you for nothing. So he was a father figure, man. It was something else, man. It was something else. Beautiful. It was an angel.
That's a beautiful thing. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. And who's Brian? Is that one of your people, Steve or Kevin?
Yeah, that's one of our assistant
that's coaches. Probably one of the coaches.
Okay, I'll bring him in. All right.
I'll as well.
What's up, Brian? How are you, brother?
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good. So everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti. Sorry. And I got Kevin McBride, I got Steve Ice, and I have Brian that just chimed in with us. I just want to shout out everybody that's watching and listening. The story of the evening is we wanted to definitely get Jermaine Grant in. He was somebody. First, let me just give you the story. Steve and I spoke over the weekend, and he talked about wanting to publicize his organization. And with that being said, I was lucky enough. God works in mysterious ways. I was lucky enough to have an open Monday. And then he also told me whom he was working with. And unbeknown to me, I was like, wait a minute, like he got some dudes that I rock with. You know what I'm saying? And I hadn't seen Jermaine since what? Oh my God, it was almost like Steve, like 20 years. I mean, you and I, we have different. We saw each other more because of our promotional background, but it was just so crazy. And then to understand that you were a positive, well, you always was a positive brother, but the things that you were doing along with your collective body with Brian now and Kevin McBride and Jermaine, and also with Steve Burt, former NBA player, that how could I not give you the avenue? With that being said, we were just talking, conversing Monday, and Jermaine refreshed my memory on the situation that we talked about in 1999. That him and three other gentlemen were going down to solidify their aspirations and dreams and playing basketball. Was it for North Carolina? One of those schools, right, in North Carolina, and yeah, and they got pulled over by state troopers, and the situation went astray, and they end up getting shot, and Jermaine got shot 4 times. And Monday he refreshed my memory on that story, and what touched my heart was that the fact that he said he wasn't bitter to law enforcement, because we live in a world right now today that law enforcement is hated by the community. There are prior law enforcement people that probably think I'm anti-law enforcement. I'm not. Kevin and I talk about this, that, Kevin, he uses the terminology bleed blue. Brian, I'm just going to mute you if that's your background. I'm just going to mute you. I'll bring you in real quick. And he says, he bleeds blue, and we talked about what bleeding blue means. Kev, maybe you can come in and just, give people some insight on what bleeding blue means to you, not so much what other people feel bleeding blue means. Go ahead, Kev. Give us some insight to that.
Hey, all right. Well, you're right about that part. It does mean different
Right.
things to different people who say it and people who hear it. For me, bleeding blue is being in law enforcement is part of who I am. Right. It is basically been my entire adult life. Right. I'm 49 years old. I've been doing it for 27 years.
Exactly.
And I'm not stopping. Right. At this point in life. So it is a passion. A way of life, a way of giving, a way of helping, a way of doing things. It's what I read about. It's what I educate myself on. Right? I do work in missing kids and violent extremists. That's all I read about. To learn more and more.
Give people more information about that too. What you're doing right now too, Kev.
All right. So in my retired from NYPD, worked for another law enforcement agency. Spend most of my time working on violent extremists, whether that's from neo-Nazi to ISIS followers and everything else under the sun. Violent, any sort of people who have a violent ideology. That's my day job. My night job, I volunteer for and co-founded an organization called the National Child Protection Task Force. Basically, what we do is we're, amongst a lot of things, we're on call 24/7. Oh, there we go, gentlemen.
Jermaine's here. Jermaine, I'm just going to mute you, and we're going to let Kevin finish off what he's saying, and we're going to bring you and Brian in, okay? You hear us?
Hello.
Jermaine, you hear us?
Yo.
What's up? You got us?
Hello?
We hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
We hear you.
This thing on?
Hello?
Jermaine, we hear you. We hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Jermaine? Okay. Jermaine, can you hear us?
I can't hear.
Come back in. Come back in. Come back in. Go ahead, Kev, real quick.
So, amongst other things, we're like I said, we're on call 24/7 out there to help any law enforcement agency with a missing, exploited, or trafficked kid. I spend a lot of time, helping and hunting down missing kids.
Jermaine, we got you. Jermaine, you got us?
I can't hear.
Hold on. Hold on, Jermaine. Let me see.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Brian, you can hear us, right? Brian, Kev, I know you got us. Ice, you got us. Kevin McBride, you got us. Jermaine, can you hear us? Ice, man, you might have to text him and let him know we can hear him, but he can't hear us. He might be in a bad zone or something like that. He's gonna come back out. So Kev, I want you to finish what you were saying, and then Brian, I just want to ask you a question before we get Jermaine in too, because I don't want to leave you out, brother. Go ahead. So Kev, go ahead, finish what you were saying, please.
No, I mean I was finished talking about what I do. That's it. Like I said, spent a lot of time working on missing kid cases, traffic kid cases, sex trafficking cases.
Well, let me just say this. I appreciate what you do because, like I said, I remember you, Leahy, and Eddie C. You guys were like the go-getters, like when and you were only a few months ahead of us. But the bottom line is, you like I always tease Leahy, like he had a nose for finding a gun. Like you'd be like, yo, my God, like this dude would pick a gun and wasn't looking per se in the terminology of looking. It just happened like, oh shit, like gunshots, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 and seventh, and he'd be driving right down the block. You know what I'm saying? And like you guys were epitome of what good officers were. So I appreciate you for being here now. Jermaine, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I got you, fellas.
Okay,
What's going on? Sorry about the
nothing.
delay. I had a meeting.
It's all good, brother. I'm just gonna mute you for 1 second. I'm gonna bring Brian in, but I just want you to listen to what we're gonna say. I'm just gonna mute you for 1 second.
Okay.
Brian, what's good, brother? How are you, man?
How's everything?
I'm good, brother. I know you're part of this organization. I just want you to give some insight from what got you involved in this organization. Because when I bring Jermaine in, the story is what we were talking about earlier, and you'll piggyback off it when you hear it. But just give me your insight, who you are, what you are to this organization, what you do, and it's glad to meet you, my brother. I'm sure you're a Harlem cat, so respect, baby. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, this organization, I'm sure of course, I know you heard the story about how it all started through Mr. Randy Bubba McGee. He was actually my first basketball coach as I, growing up and coming through the PAL. And that gentleman there was such an influence, man, and being a part of my life and helped me through a lot of things. As I got a little older, I kind of strayed away from PAL a little bit, but I still was able to go talk to Bubba whenever I needed to, Right. One of the things that kind of still touched my heart and hurt me the most is that I didn't get to see him, right before he passed. It's been about maybe 2 years before he passed that I was able to see him, and that hurt me so much that I wasn't able, to go talk to him and shake his hand, but his overall influence in his heart touched me dearly. So it brought me full circle back around to my love of basketball. And originally, I have a son that plays basketball, and he was fortunate enough to make the team. I started out as being a proud parent, get to watch my son play ball, and then I used to coach a little bit myself, and these gentlemen will allow me to continue to help these kids grow, give a little bit of lessons that I have, knowledge that I have to portray and give off to these kids, and help them grow. So that's my aspect of it.
I appreciate you, Brian, and I thank you. And I told Steve Ice that I definitely will bring you guys back. Tonight it was so touching. First, I just want to shout out everybody that's watching. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti. And when I was talking to Steve, Jermaine, and Steve Burt Monday, Jermaine refreshed my memory on so much that had happened to him, that because Kevin and I talk about law enforcement and interaction, And I know Steve and I have had conversations before via social media about, law enforcement and interaction with people of color. And I'm so glad to meet, my brethrens, Kevin McBride and now you, Brian. But I wanted Jermaine to come and tell the story. And Jermaine, just to tell you that I reached out to a lot of the players, the people that are watching now that we used to play ball with from the 2-8. Don is in the building right now. And, a lot of the 2-8 family is in the building. So they wanted to come and hear your story because the bottom line is what I told Kevin Branzetti, because Kevin was working in the 2-8 at the time, but I'm assuming if he played basketball, he would have came over and he would have played with us because the bottom line is that was a family and that was a collective unit. With that being said, I just want to shout out everybody that's watching. This is Real Talk Chronicles. We are YouTube Live. We are Facebook Live. We are doing it. Shout out to Vanetta, Don, everybody, Colin. I see you. I appreciate you all for just chiming in. Adrian, Ruth, Darren, Joseph, everybody. I appreciate you all for chiming in and showing some love. So, Jermaine, I'm going to channel this energy to you right now. I appreciate you for the man that you were. We giving you accolades and your blessings while you were here. What I would like you to do is take us through the situation, because what I told Kevin Branzetti is that, Kevin worked in the 2-8 at that time. But the one thing that you told me Monday that resonated with me so much is that you being caught into a law enforcement situation, you don't hate law enforcement. And that is probably shocking to a lot of people because there are people out here that just hate law enforcement and don't even know. I mean, Kevin, I'm sure can contest to this, being a white officer. I'm sure Kevin McBride can contest to this, that, when people see that uniform, they judge you by the uniform. I've had to check people on just me being a law enforcement person and be like, yo, honey, don't engage me for what you see. Engage me for the verbs and the adjectives that I'm giving you. So fall back with that. But Jermaine, what I would like you to do is take us through the situation. First and foremost, how are you doing? Are you good? How's your health? Your health is good?
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Good. Good.
Um, you know,
So
through lingering trials and tribulations, but I'm here, so I can. Pain is easy.
exactly. And so I I know we talk about this, we talked about it quickly Monday, but bottom line is for all the people that your story has changed lives, shown reform in police work, I just want you to give us your story and from being pulled over, and you can just talk, brother. So we're gonna all listen and let you vibe and tell us what happened on that night, that night in 1999.
All right. Well, it was April 23rd, 1998. Me and three ball players, Danny Reyes, Keyshawn Moore, Rayshawn Brown, and myself, Jermaine Grant. We decided to take a trip down to North Carolina to go to the University of North Carolina Central, where if anybody know anything about North Carolina Central, working out down there, you got exposed to all of the ACC schools down there. So it was pretty much a gym that, back in the Ronnie Rogers or Michael Jordan would go through players that, it was just a place to be. It was pretty much like the Rucker Park in New York, but it was a University of North Carolina Central. So my friend Keyshawn Moore rented a van. And he got us all three together, and we decided to take a trip down to North Carolina Central. And going down there, the only person I knew, really, was Keyshawn Moore, was the driver. And Danny Reyes, I knew of him because he played for Gauchos. He went to Staten Island. He played for Curtis High School in Staten Island. Rayshawn Brown, I knew him by playing with him. So, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. So we all, so Keyshawn rented a van. We all chipped in. We all was licensed except Keyshawn. Keyshawn was licensed, but his license was suspended. So we didn't know that going down. So we all got in the van. Danny, Rayshawn.
All right, hold on for a second, because I just want to bring pictures. I want people to paint a picture. who was driving the van when y'all got pulled over?
Keyshawn Moore.
Okay, so no problem. So the bottom line, the van was rented properly. It wasn't stolen or anything
No,
that
no, no.
magnitude.
It was rented properly. Yes,
All
yes.
right. So the bottom line is you guys are just driving and you're just driving
Yeah,
down
we
the
was
highway.
driving on the turnpike. They actually came to pick me up last. Danny had forgot his bags in Queens when he was living with his sister at the time. So we reverted back to Queens and we entered the turnpike through the Lincoln Tunnel. So as we leaving the Lincoln Tunnel, we just talking, catching up on how do we know each other from playing against each other in high school, playground, and things of that nature. Just talking about each other's accolades up until that point.
Absolutely.
I actually fell asleep. Soon as we hit the turnpike, soon as we got in the Lincoln Tunnel, I fell asleep. So Keyshawn was the driver, Danny was the passenger, Rashawn was in the middle of the caravan. I was in the back where all the bags and things were piled up in. So as we driving, I fell asleep. I fell asleep to a DJ Clue tape. That's when DJ Clue was very famous. Harlem
Exactly.
Music Hut.
Shout
I
out
got
to
my drink.
DJ Clue. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and Harlem Music Hut. So all of a sudden, I woke up a little bit slightly because I noticed we stopped, and all I saw was lights, like traffic lights, which I thought it was traffic lights, but all of a sudden I dozed back off, and hell just broke loose. It started hearing gunshots. The first bullet that entered the car shattered my kneecap. So I jumped up out of my sleep because I fell back to sleep. So I jumped up out of my sleep because I was like, damn, dreams don't hurt. And then I started to look around and I started to hear nothing but chaos, gunshots, windows breaking, everybody screaming. And all of a sudden I got hit. I thought we was getting carjacked. That was my initial thought. I thought we was getting carjacked. I'm trying to look around. All you just saw was glass flying, bullets. Like bullets just kept hitting me. After I got shot in my knee, I got shot in my back. After I got shot in my back, I got shot in my rib. After I got shot in my rib, bullet grazed my head. So I just slumped down in the back. But I was so big. I was in the back. I was big, so I couldn't slump down to the ground because I was surrounded by bags. So I couldn't see Rashawn. I just kept hearing voices. I saw Keyshawn in the driver's seat, and I saw Danny in the passenger seat. When I noticed it was police officers, state troopers, is when Keyshawn had ducked in the middle of the console of the caravan, and Danny jumped into the driver's seat because the van started to roll backwards, and I saw the state trooper break the glass with his baton, stick his hand in, and Danny held his hand out with no resistance, and the state trooper paused for about 3 seconds and then fired 4 shots. And from there, it was just chaotic. The van wound up drifting back onto the highway, and then we got ramsacked from the back, which propelled the van to go forward into a ditch off of 7-8. And from there, the hell just continued. They was, coming down the ditch, yelling and screaming, don't move, freeze. Everybody was just screaming in agony. They snatched Danny out, handcuffed him. By then, he was already shot 6 times. And when the van got propelled onto the highway, we got hit from a car behind going forward. As we were going away, the state troopers kept firing. So Danny got shot 6 times. At the end, I got shot 4 times. Rashawn got shot twice. He would have got shot a 3rd time, but he had a beeper, and the beeper blocked the bullet that would have shattered his pelvis. And Keyshawn didn't get shot. So they came down and they was just yelling and screaming, pulling everybody out the van. They couldn't get me out. So what they did, they handcuffed me to the back. I was already shot, bleeding. Shit. Damn. I get, give me a minute. Just get a
No,
little emotional
no,
about the
no.
shit.
Take your time, brother.
Um,
But listen, the
but
beautiful thing about let me tell you something, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my host, Kevin Branzetti. I have Kevin McBride. I have Steve Ice. I have Brian in the building. I have Jermaine Grant. We are talking about a situation that happened in 1999, and it's touching my
90,
heart. If it doesn't
98.
touch your heart, it doesn't touch anybody else's heart. You must be cold, because the bottom line is the situation that this young brother that used to play with us, Steve knows, and we watched him, grow and be a man. Jermaine, I'm going to give you a chance to catch yourself, but Steve, I'm going to ask you all right now. I'm going to start with you, Steve, Ice, Kevin McBride, Brian, and I'll go to you,
Now,
Kevin.
hold on, Bill. I'm sorry. Now,
You
it's
good?
it doesn't strike me. The only reason that is because right now we're in a situation to be the first victims versus accusers to actually have a sit down. And I just got off of a meeting, so where we're getting closer and closer to the situation where I actually have to sit in front of the people who actually try to take my life and find out and find out why. And it's never been done before.
Wow.
So
well, I'm gonna put myself out there. If you need me to come and just be along in the audience with you as support, I am giving myself to you in that aspect, just in support. You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is the fact that what you, Steve, Kev, Brian, and Steve Bird are doing. I told you Monday that you guys got my support, and the fact that I haven't seen you in so many years, but it just touched my heart. I told you I got Don in the building. I got a lot of former 2A people that we played ball with. I texted them and told them that we were going to be in tonight, and you was going to sit here and talk. So these guys haven't seen you in all these years. So I know they are so happy to see that you are still here doing your thing, Steve Ice, because we played with each other every Thursday for
yeah,
years. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
For
yeah,
years. And the fact that, the bottom line is we're still here to breathe through all the pandemic, the COVID. Steve Ice, I appreciate you, and Jermaine, I appreciate you for introducing me to Brian, Kevin. I'm glad I can introduce my Kevin to you, because Jermaine, I wanted Kevin to meet you because Kevin was in the 2A at that time, but I'm sure if he played basketball, he would have met you at that time. But Kevin probably at that time was trying to save the world. But the beautiful thing is
yeah,
that I told Kevin that we had to bring you back, you and Steve, for the show, because the bottom line is you said something to me the other night, that Monday, that was like, you was like, I don't hate law enforcement because of guys like you. And that meant the world to me, because the bottom line is we're in a world today where people hate law enforcement and law
yeah,
enforcement hate people. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted
yeah.
people to hear your story, to see that this is a
It's
success. This is a success story. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
This is a man that didn't do anything, and he's still here and he's making it. And the officers were wrong, because a lot of times people always say, "Oh, well, let's see what what comes back," and what they say. Yo, f that, f them
yeah,
officers, f those state troopers. I know you. You know what I'm saying? I can
yeah,
stand by you. I ride with you. So F them. So I'm glad that you still here, and I'm glad you telling the story, and I'm glad that I can share my story to my 5,000 and my YouTube followers and my friends, because your story needs to be saved, to be shown and told. I'm glad Steve is here. I'm glad Kevin is here. I'm glad Brian is here, and I'm glad Kevin Branzetti is here. So go ahead, brother. Say whatever you want to say, man. But matter of
well, I
fact, hold on.
mean,
Let me just
well,
read what people are saying. Don, Don is in the building, man. Don is saying, yo, I will be there as well. He's ready to shout you out. Stephanie Spivey said, thank you for sharing. Um, Don said, my family, you hurt, and we all hurt. That Vanetta says, wow, how ridiculous. Yeah, she says, wow, stories like this just break my heart. My God. My man Mark Rose, my God. So these are people are all in here. Mark Rose said, this is what PTSD is all about. You don't have to be Iraq or Afghanistan to have suffered a traumatized event. I have so much respect for this as well. Definitely. Vanetta said the conversation needs to happen just to know why. Exactly. Mark, he says, count me in on support group as well. See, that's what's up. This is what this is all about. Whatever I can, Vanetta says, whatever I can do to support, please let me know. I mean that. Respect. Everybody, shout out to everybody that's chiming in. This is Real Talk
Yeah,
Chronicles.
and
We
I
just can't
appreciate
love.
that, man. I really do. I really do. And that's the one question I get when I do guest speaking tours. I do I hate law enforcement? People really expect me to hate law enforcement. People expect me to have hatred in my heart. And my story is always the same. I wasn't raised to hate. Certain parents sit down and have that conversation with their kids. Don't play with this kid because of the color of their skin. Don't do this. But I come from a single parent home, so I wasn't taught to hate. So it has to come from home first. And I actually sympathize with a lot of police officers, not law enforcement, because I see a lot of things have changed. A lot of things just don't. The abuse of power, and we talked about that earlier. That's something that we should put in reform. I don't, like I said on Monday, I don't believe in defunding. I really don't. I believe in strict reform. Going out to the officers first, not the state. I understand these state troopers. They said they was taught by the state to profile, but you still have to go out there and cause the action. So it's just the conversation is deep, and the next question I get from a lot of people, especially kids, does it hurt? The typical question, but do I have survival remorse? And I said, yeah. They asked me, do I have PTSD? I say no, because I've learned how to take my negative and turn it into a positive. So I can only be influential because the Mike Browns are not here to tell their story. The Trayvon Martins are not here. The Felicia Castros, the Sandra Blands are not here to tell their stories. I have the opportunity to do so. So I'm not going to let anything cloud me or pretty much embarrass my mother. Bottom line, embarrass my community, embarrass the people who fought that got me this far in life. So I've learned how to take my negative and turn it into a positive. And that's the most inspiration thing that I can say. That's my trait. That's my trait.
Let me just say this, and we're going to get back into your story. These officers were convicted and tried for tampering with evidence and things of that magnitude. But I just want you, whenever you're ready, you can just tell your story. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I have Kevin McBride. I have Steve Ice. I have Brian in the building. I have Jermaine Grant in the building. This is a young prodigy that we were all looking and hoping that would be the next us, or we could live vicariously through him. He was a gentleman, right, Steve Ice? Like he was a dude. Like Steve, let me just, Jermaine, I'm just gonna give you a second. I want Kev, Brian, and Steve Ice, and of course Kevin Branzetti, just to give their insight on what they've heard so far. And I'll start with you, Steve, Kevin.
I mean, at the same time, listen, I know these brothers, I can ask me anything. I'm open. This is what I do. And my voice is the only thing I had. So, I mean, ask the questions away. It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't take me into a dark place. It's just like it's part of my healing process too. Because
absolutely,
I'm trying to save lives.
That's what Real Talk is about, man. So we are here. People, Vanetta shouted out. She said, "What can we do? What can any of us do to support you when you have the conversation with these killers? Because that's what they are, and they just happen to have the uniform on." Vanetta said, "You are here, and this story needs to be heard nationally, and the conversation you have with these men." Thank you, Vanetta. I appreciate you. So, Steve, let me ask you, Kev, Brian, and then Kevin Branzetti, when you hear this story from Jermaine, what goes through your mind? Just give us some insight. And what do you feel, and what do you feel when you hear the story?
Well, the first thing I want to say, he just mentioned about he didn't want to embarrass his mother. Well, he just embarrassed me because I just got on your boy Kev about being late, and here it is. I just said black people are not late. He comes late. He took 2 steps forward. We took 2 steps forward, and he makes us take 5 steps backwards. That's what's going through my mind. No. Honestly, to hear the story, I knew the story. I've been around Jermaine had the pleasure. We've been in touch during the years, constantly playing ball together. But to hear the story in full detail, was getting choked up over here. I mean, like, kind of like a tear in my eye. Like I didn't even realize until Monday that he got shot 4 times. I know Danny. I didn't know Danny got shot 6 times. That's incredible that they survived. So just hearing the bone chilling story coming from him, like actually today hearing it in detail, is mind boggling. I mean, my heart goes out to him. This is a real good guy, a real good dude. And that's the grace of God had your back because you had more work to do.
Yeah,
So,
my sentiments exactly, yo, Jermaine, yo, I'm so glad to see you. I promise you, going forward, that well, Steve, we are social media, but I promise you, Jermaine, that you will never lose contact with me again after this. Just on the simple fact that I'm just so glad to see you, and like I told Steve earlier, and I told Kevin that and like I told you guys Monday, if I can do anything to help your organization, I will. I promise you that. Kevin McBride, give me some insight on what you feeling, and then Brian and Kevin Branzetti, hold it down. I'm just going to slide to the left for a second. Go ahead. To the right. Go ahead.
Well, I agree. I agree with Steve Ice. I didn't know the details, and the details was definitely chilling to hear. It's a blessing that he made it through. Like Steve said, I agree. God had more work for him to do. We're blessed to have him with us in our Harlem All-Star organization. He brings a lot to the table with these young men that we deal with. He comes from a whole different perspective on how he treats them. They respect him. He shows them nothing but respect. So through the grace of God, he's made it through hell and back, actually. And so he got a lot to give, and God knew that he had a lot to give and offer. And we're just thankful to God that he's here and he's with us.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. Shit, because I mean, the honest to God truth is, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for guys like y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm constantly having conversations with people on, bragging about the people that I work with, that I'm in contact with, and the people that I know. So I call it my blessing in disguise for a reason, because I'm truly blessed, man. I'm truly blessed, and I have nothing to worry about, man, because I got a whole fucking family that I didn't have to have brothers growing up, but I got uncles, brothers, cousins, and I just try to make y'all proud, man. That's it, man.
And you're doing a good job. Brian, what's your take on this, brother? What's your insight?
Like same things, just to really piggyback off of what Steve Ice said, and I didn't really know the full details. Actually, I did know the details because when I knew of Jermaine, because he's obviously younger than I, so he was playing ball with some of the younger guys that I knew from around the area. But I didn't know he was that one. I didn't know he was that guy. It wasn't until he was telling me the story, when we first met for the Harlem All Stars, that it was him, and I was like, wow, and to compare his story from 1998 to what's going on now, it's a heart-wrenching situation, man. I give him, he's full of courage, his knowledge. He's a full well of knowledge, for basketball, to give these young guys, to give these kids that we're working with, and I commend him for that. He's definitely a jokester. We need that. Steve Ice is one too, as you see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Steve Ice is one. So they two peas in a pod when it comes to that. Well, we all are, but them two is definitely, the silliest out of the bunches, so to speak. But yo, Jermaine, man, I really didn't know the full details, or like I said, how many times you may have got hit, or even the rest of the guys, man. And I my prayers is up for you full fledged, man, for being able to deal with that and come back and don't hold it against anyone else, and still tell your story, educate, and bring light to the situation. And I praise you for that, brother.
And it's so funny. It's so funny, Brian, because you made a statement last week. If you wasn't part of Harlem All Stars, then you wouldn't have known what's the name was your cousin. And I didn't. And when I met you, I didn't know that Ball was your brother. Me and Ball went to Rice. You know what I'm saying?
Biggs.
Biggs. I'm sorry, Biggs.
Yeah,
So,
Biggs.
but you know, but we knew Bob too. You know what I'm saying? So, but then when I found out how the real connection, and a lot of people don't know this, and you probably know this, Jay-Z's song 99 Problems, when he was talking about the cop pulling him over, he was just like he was saying he was doing 55 and the 54.
Yeah.
That happened to him on the turnpike. Nobody know that. A lot of people don't know that. So when he made that reference, he was making that reference on how dangerous the Jersey Turnpike was.
Yeah.
Riding up and down that turnpike. And I didn't know that. And I just found that out maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So but the correlation on how I know you, your peoples, and things of that nature, and how Harlem All Stars brought all of us together to share these stories and to be impactful with these kids and just each other, supportive of each other as men, as brothers, as fathers, as uncles. You know what I'm saying? And to look at your son and say that's my nephew. You know what I'm saying? Like and all across the board. It's a beautiful thing. So once again, may his soul continue to rest in peace. Randy Bubba McGee, like I didn't know him as well as some of the guys did, but I've had interaction with him, and I felt that interaction. So
Absolutely.
it was so easy for me to be a part of something that God said, this is why I left you alive. This is why you're here. So you got more work to do. So and it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. So I don't, whatever negativity people think I assume that I have, they don't know the joy that actually came out of this situation.
Well, I appreciate you touched my heart. You touched a lot of the listeners' heart. People out here. I just want to say, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster. I have my co-host Kevin Branzetti. I have Steve Ice. I have Kevin McBride. I have Brian. I have Jermaine Grant. We're talking about 1999 when he got pulled over with 3 others, and state troopers shot them, and they tried to fudge the information. They did so much heinous stuff. They were incarcerated and stuff like that. I just want to read some of the comments that shot me here. Kevin, I'm going to come to you, and just from a law enforcement standpoint, when you hear this story and the fact that it is, because people always say, officers always say, I want to hear the story. Let me hear the real facts. Now you're seeing an individual that lived this situation, a la, Central Park, exonerated Central Park, other people that have said that they haven't done anything. But this is an actual person that most of your 2A brethren and sisters worked with and played with basketball, and he's here to tell a story. I just want to read some of the comments that are coming in here from online. Vanetta said, wow, who has contacted MSNBC, CNN, Fox, PBS to speak to the world, because your story is important, for not to have hate in your heart for law enforcement after this ordeal. The world on both sides needs to hear your story and voice. Thank you, Vanetta. She also says, and you have to have lived to tell this story. Bill Forster, I know you know people to give the story to the masses. I can help in any way. I would make this happen. I mean that and say that. Exactly. Sean Goldie Bills, what's up? In the building. Don Edwards in the building, baby. We played with him all the time. He said, Bill, I've gotten pulled over on Turnpike and I have law enforcement plates, shaking my head, trying to see if I stole my own car. LOL, until I showed my shield and ID. Exactly. Sean, much blessings to my dude Jermaine. Sean, that's what's up. So everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I got these brothers in the building. This is our Wednesday edition with Kevin Branzetti, Brian, Jermaine Grant, Kevin McBride, Steve Ice. Kevin Branzetti, give me some insight, man. What are you hearing? What are you thinking? What are you feeling when you hear this story, brother?
Well, first off, just want to say a couple of things. Jermaine, just thank you for being you. Right? It is I can't tell you what a pleasure this is this evening for myself. Thank you. we talked a little bit before we started, so we didn't finish about role models. You are the epitome of a role model, right? From your actions to your heart, from for decades. There is no better human being. So thank you for being who you are. With all that said, the reason I didn't play ball with you guys back then is because I am the absolute fucking worst basketball player you'll ever meet. All right. You could put me 5 feet out from the hoop, knock it down a couple of feet. I'm missing 9 out of 10. God's honest truth. That's how horrible I am at basketball. It's just off. Give me a stick and a puck. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'll skate circles around you. I can move, but throw me a ball. It ain't happening.
Hey, Kev. Hey. To your defense, bro. Trust me. It was everybody wasn't good. Earl, remember Earl had more fouls than he had buckets. So, you mentioned in hockey, you would have fit right in with the fouls.
Exactly. Shout out to Earl Jones that I threw him the passes and he dropped them. Exactly. Shout out to our 2A family that's listening on the low.
Yeah.
We appreciate you all. Listen, this story is about, it's a happy ending. It's about brothers like Kevin McBride, Steve Ice, and Brian and Jermaine Grant and Steve and Steve Burt doing some positivity in the community. I gave them a second night. Also I wanted to highlight Jermaine's story because the bottom line is we hear all about the negativity and the light at the end of the tunnel for this story. And I want Jermaine to finish picking up if he's ready to do that. But the bottom line is that he said something so like touching to me Monday. He was like, yo, it was guys like us that gave him inspiration, but also too, it was guys like us that caused him not to hate law enforcement. And I thought that was prevalent because let me tell you something, man. And I'm going to ask Steve, Kev, Brian, and I'm going to ask you, Kevin Branzetti, later on in the show, because and I'm going to put this question into your ear. Already, I'm going to go to Jermaine and I want him to finish some of the story. But let me tell you something. If you was my son Jermaine or you my brother, I would have a lot of hatred in my heart, and I know that because I just know who I am. I try to be a righteous person. I've been born again, and I try to follow a different path. Trust me. But the bottom line is, I understand how people of color have a disdain for law enforcement. And I feel sorry for people like you, Kevin, that do all you can do to be the person that you are, and your skin tone should not be a hindrance or a problem because you just want to do your job and you just want to be a righteous individual. You understand what I'm saying? I say all that to say that, but a person like Jermaine was like, Jermaine, we said earlier before you got on the show, you were like the cornbread, Earl and me. You know what I'm saying? And anybody who doesn't know that story, you may not know that story, but Ice knows it. Maybe Kevin knows it.
Nah, I know it.
Yeah. Like you were cornbread. Like who shot cornbread? Like what the F, yo? You know what I'm saying? Yo, Kevin Branzetti, I'm gonna send you the link to Cornbread Earl and me. Lawrence Fishburne was a young G in that movie. We were all babies when we watched that movie. But the prototype of this story is that Cornbread was a basketball player, and he was coming out the ghetto, coming out the hood, and he got shot by a police officer and died. Jermaine was like we said, he was that up and coming star for us. All those guys that still had dreams when we played on a Thursday that, I made this layup and I slapped the boards on you, or I hit this jump shot. You know what I'm saying? That our careers were over. But Jermaine, we still live vicariously through you. You know what I'm saying? Like Steve Ice was always known for, yo, throw me the ball. And he'd be on the other team. We'd be like, damn. Steve, I think he got everybody at least one time. You know what I'm saying? I may have spent a whole day in the gym trying not to throw him the ball when he was on the other side of the team just because he was good at faking you out. But with that being said, Jermaine, you were the inspiration. So, okay, let's take us back to if it's all due willing that let's take us back to shootings. You're in the car, rolls off the highway.
Yeah,
Pick us
yeah.
up from that point. Go ahead.
So we in a ditch, and we're just confused about what's going on, trying to find our way, and all of a sudden, as I'm sitting in the back of the van, and I noticed that everybody's out the van, but they couldn't get me out because my leg was pinned, and we're all screaming for help. We asked them, what did we do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. We just trying to go to school to play ball, and all you heard was just, shut the fuck up, you motherfuckers, and other explicit words. And then as I started to calm down, I looked to my left where I can see over the ditch, and I saw that the car that hit us exploded on the highway. So the state troopers had left. I thought the reason why they left because our car was on fire. So once that happened, then you started seeing a bunch of lights, and more state troopers showed up. Traffic jam, traffic stop, and they denied us. No, so the fire department came and they try to give us some type of aid, but as you know, it's like, don't touch them. They haven't been searched yet. Boom, boom, boom. So the fire department, they was just like, well, and I was pleading with them. I was just like, please, can you help us? Please, we didn't do anything wrong. We was just trying to go to school. And he was just like, we can't help you right now because of, they're saying you haven't been searched. So he took some gauze and he just patted them on me. And then EMS showed up and they tried to deny medical attention again. So, the EMS was like, no, they're bleeding to death. They're bleeding to death, and all of a sudden they just started, it just got real confused. I started to black out a little bit, but I try to stay conscious because I was saying in my mind, it's true when they say your life flashes before you. And my thing is, I'm gonna die and I don't even know why. So I'm sitting in the back of the car. So the nurse, she just cuts all my clothes off, and she said, and it's a rainy, wet day, and she says, look, there's no weapons on them. And they had to, one by one, take us up this wet, slippery, muddy ditch to where it took about 6 to 10 people for each one of us, to where I was placed in the back of an ambulance, and state trooper got in the car, got in the back with me, and I was just pleading with her. I was like, please, can you please tell me what happened? Tell me what's going on. We didn't do anything wrong. So she was just saying, are you sure you didn't do anything wrong? And I said, yeah, we going to school. We ball players. And I just started blurring names and numbers out, blurring numbers. And, in the process, I think I gave the lady a few ex-girlfriend numbers too, but that's a whole different story. But so all of a sudden the state trooper, once he saw the sincerity in my face that I really didn't do anything, and he got out because he was adamant that he was going to handcuff me to the thing and inside the ambulance. And then I kind of like kept blacking in and out. And then I noticed that I drove halfway off the turnpike and I got into a helicopter where I was in shock. I was in critical, and I was being flown to Camden Trauma Center, Camden, and they good for, gunshot wounds and things of that nature. So, and when I got to the hospital, everything was a blur until I woke up into recovery. And once I woke up in recovery, I was in a private room. And the nurse told the doctor I was up. So they took me out of there and put me into another private room, which I wasn't handcuffed. And all of a sudden, the TV was on, and it said 4 young men had a shootout with state troopers on the turnpike. And she looked at me and said, "Is that you?" And I was like, "No, we didn't have no guns in the car. We didn't do anything. It wasn't no shootout," because that was the initial report on the turnpike, because they had a press conference on the turnpike saying that we had guns in the car, we was uneducated, we wasn't going to school, we had no jobs. So they had a whole description of us before we even made a statement.
Now hold on, Jermaine. Hold that thought. Kevin McBride, you got a second, or you about to step away? You good?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let me ask you a question from a law enforcement standpoint. When you hear this story, what goes through your mind, brother?
bad seeds, and you have bad seeds in every capacity, every job you go to. There's bad dentists, there's bad doctors, there's bad painters, and unfortunately, when you come across some of those bad people, it's stereotyped to the where when people make statements, they generalize. Well, all the cops ain't this, and for example, you get cut off while you're driving, a yellow cab cut you off. You don't say, most people don't say, yellow cab 319 cut me off. They'll say, goddamn yellow cabs, which means all yellow cabs. You see, so that's just how people generalize. But the story that he's telling, it's obvious that those was bad seeds, and they just made a lot of great cops look bad in the process. But again, through the grace of God, Jermaine is a real good guy, very upbeat all the time. I don't think I've ever seen him angry about anything. And you have a person like that, and then you couple him with Steve Ice, and Brian made mentioned earlier, it's a blessing to have the Jermaine and Steve Ice. They kind of lessen the loads on certain things, certain stressful situations we faced with our program. But when either one of them are there, they kind of lighten things. They never really rattle like that. They never, so they're good for each other. They, like Brian said, they're the comedians of the crew and keeps things light when things are a little more, intense for the rest of us, or we're feeling a little more intense about certain things. We can look to them too, and they'll calm us down with a joke or something, but they'll just lighten the load. And that's a blessing to have those kind of guys with us. And again, it's just bad seeds, and it's bad seeds anywhere you go. Thank God, though, Jermaine and the rest of them made it through.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to come to you, Steve Ice. Brian, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you feel when you hear the story, brother? I mean, like the fact that, like this dude, our brother is your dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he still has an upbeat. Like I was joking, Jermaine, before you came on. I said, I don't ever remember you cursing. Even if you said I filed you, you was just like, damn, that's the worst that you ever would have said. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
you was just
you know why, right? Because I was taught through man, so continue recipes. Vaughn Drew used to be a ball player back in St. Nick Project where I'm from, and he told me one day we was watching a Jim Brown movie. Like I was at his crib, we was watching a Jim Brown movie, and Jim Brown was talking about like how difficult it is to play racism wise in the National Football League. So he said Jim Brown told me Jim Brown made this quote. He said every time Jim Brown got tackled, they tackled him, gouged his eyes out, kicked him in the groin and everything. And Jim Brown got up nice and calm and said, that's going to cost you another 40 yards. That's going to cost you 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then when I used to, when I used to complain to Tiny Archibald and the rest, I'd be like, Dad, he fouling me. And Tiny Archibald told me, he was just like, the next time somebody foul you like that, he said, that means you got to add 10 to 20 points to that deficit. so I just said, every time I got fouled, I was just like, yo, that's going to cost you another bucket, basically.
Yeah. You definitely was giving us the business because rest in peace to Joe Seabrook. He succumbed to 9/11 causes, but we used to like to see you and Joe go at it because you cats was dunking and sliding up around that court. So rest in peace to Joe Seabrook. But Brian, when you hear this story, like what are you thinking? What are you feeling, brother?
Jermaine, real quick question. How old were you? What was your age at that time?
It's about 20, 21. Yeah, 21. Yeah.
Okay. And I asked that because I do remember at the same, when I was around the same age, like to hear you talk now, how you don't have any hatred towards the police or anything like that, or I'm guessing right after that you just wanted to, get your life back together, and heal physically and mentally. But for you now to talk now, and like I said, you're about to speak to the actual the men that did that to you, or to you guys. And I'm kind of going here because when I was younger, I just remember we young Harlem guys, whatever. We was uptown, me and my cousin just wanted to talk to some girls. We was out there just trying to talk to some girls and stuff like that. And we was in a neighborhood, I guess, that they wanted us to leave, so they was telling us, all right, you got to move your cars and get out of here. We're like, okay, and my cousin was trying to get his little last bit of numbers or whatever. And he was so, started cursing at us, you got to leave us. Okay, officer, we leaving. And he was, pushing us to go away. And, we was upset, we didn't understand why, we didn't know the story. We didn't know what was going on. And just from that little reaction that we had with him, the next day or 2 days later, it was a story that came on the news that somebody up there in the heights somewhere uptown threw a bucket off the roof and ended up killing a police officer. That same exact police officer that kept pushing us away and cursing at us and telling us to get in us a car. And for a hot second, and it wasn't even a hot second, for a little bit of moment, I was like, good. I was like, good. And I'm not like that now, but that's how I felt then. So now to see Jermaine went through something way worse than I went through and could embrace it and take it in. I just, like I said, man, this guy courage is something else, man, because I didn't feel any remorse or anything when I heard the story. I was like, good for him. And it's probably, and like I said, now I know I kind of like analyze situations. I mean, that officer, rest in peace, could have just had a bad day. It could have been something that happened literally 20 minutes before he saw me that triggered that situation. And here I go, almost like, sharing that this happened to him. And I think that was such a, immature attitude. And I was like around the same age as Jermaine, and he didn't move that way. So kudos, homeboy.
Thank you, Brian. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with Kevin Branzetti. We're here with Jermaine Grant, Brian, Kevin McBride, Steve Ice, and Kevin Branzetti. I just want to read some of the comments in the building. Vanetta said, I'm sitting here crying, shaking my head. She said, God saved you, and because he knew the day would come and for you to be heard. She said, and the problem, bad cops make good cops look bad. Definitely. We all know that. Steve, I'm going to ask you, Steve Ice, I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm going to go to Kevin Branzetti first. Kev, like you said, as a person that, when you use the terminology bleed blue, and you hear, because we haven't got into the point, I'm going to let Jermaine talk about how the officers were found guilty for falsifying documents and stuff like that. And as you are so pro righteous cops, and I'm with you on that, because I am about righteous cops doing the right thing, and Jermaine is still pro police. You know what I'm saying? What's your take, like in the fact of these bad officers that tarnished our badge?
Well, Billy, I've said it's always painful for me to watch. Like, I don't like watching cops just do stupid things and do things, small things on the street. What we used to refer to as shit canning something, right? Like, not spending time to not do their job. I didn't like cops who didn't like to help. I didn't like cops who didn't understand how to do investigations. And we see things on TV of people who were either misarrested on falsely arrested, or the opposite, where justice wasn't served because the case wasn't handled and somebody went free for decades, and then a young officer comes in and figures it out. I hate seeing all that. It pains me to listen here, to sit here and listen to Jermaine talk. He should be talking at our academies, right? That's where it's so hard, and I can't say this enough times tonight. Like, we talk about these incidents and we shoot the shit over it, and we talk about the discrepancies and things that could have been done, should have been done, but weren't. But hearing from somebody like Jermaine, who is in the inside of an incident, and hearing the way who you are as a human being, Jermaine, listen, you're the ultimate role model. So seeing you speak at a police academy is part of the things you should be doing out there. And I hope someday somebody taps you on the shoulder and pegs you for that job and pulls you into those places, because it means a lot.
Well, definitely. If Jermaine, if I got any say, I will definitely put you in that. Steve Ice, let me ask you a question real quick. Jermaine, your dude, when you found out that he here went through this situation, what was your feelings and what give me some ideology on your pulse during this situation?
So, I mean, again, initially the concern, for his safety, because when we got the news, it was just that he got shot. So, the next question, did he die? Is he good? Well, we're not sure. I think he's all right, but we just know he got shot. So, again, we were all like kind of devastated. This is our younger brother, like you said. This was the one that was going to make it out. And we could live through. We could say we know him personally.
And Steve, matter of fact, we all would have took Jermaine, real talk. We all would have said, "Well, I taught him that move. We taught him this move." But Steve, elaborate on where we were when we heard this news. Like you said, Don's in the building. Like where were we when we heard this news that he got shot? Like,
yeah, we were in the gym, and if Don is still online, he'll recall Jimbo was with us in the gym, and I forgot who came in and broke the news, but we stopped playing ball, and it was like the topic of conversation, like for the next half hour. We were just, oh man, Jermaine, what happened? And
Don said he's in. Don said he's in the building. Go ahead. Yeah. Exactly.
I just remember everybody was just shocked. But I want to say this, that I want to kind of go back to something that I think comes full circle to one of your questions about being having a mentor in your life. And I want to show you how it comes back to what Jermaine is saying and to how it changed my thought process. So we talked a lot about Randy Bubba McGee, which obviously, he was a big factor. But it was brothers like you don't even realize. I looked up to you. You was that brother that, you allowed us to play ball was one thing, but when I saw you on the street, it was still that same love. And then I'm watching you when you started promoting, you had that swagger with you. And I'm like, yeah, that's my boy. I know him, so I always kind of wanted to be like you in the sense, like, man, if I ever do that, I'm going to dress like him. I'm going to be like him. Like, he's real cool. So when the situation came upon with Jermaine, let me just bring it together. Because the relationship that was formed with you guys at the 2-8, I couldn't paint all police in that same picture because of you guys and how you treated us. And you were like, believe it or not, were a mentor without you even realizing. I looked up to you because, again, listen, man, this dude's a police officer. He's doing something, but he's cool. So I just want to throw that out there.
I know. And let me tell you something. I appreciate that because Don just chimed in and he said, Bill never changed. And I appreciate that because, the bottom line is, like I've told Kevin and I've talked about this. The police department never made. I don't know how you feel about this, Kevin McBride. Maybe you can chime in on this real quick, and we're gonna get back to you, Jermaine. But like I always tell people, that I made the police department. The police department didn't made me. They got credits for me working with them. Like not that me being part of them, because the bottom line is like I felt like I was the epitome of what community policing was. I was a New York City born and bred officer. A dude, and I became a police officer, and I still lived in the community, not too far from where I worked. You know what I'm saying, Kev? And bottom line is,
I agree.
I was able to give back. And let me tell you something. Like anybody could have reached out to me and asked me, yo, B, I got pulled over. What do you think? Like let me tell you something. My path from parking my car to my building was deemed with, yo, B, can I ask you a question? Yo, B, Yo, you good? Yo, let me tell you something. Can I ask you another question? Let me tell you something. By the time I got upstairs, I didn't want to talk to my damn self. You know what I'm saying? So, Kevin McBride, give me some insight. How do you feel about like giving back to your community in that aspect?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I agree. Again, a couple of the parents has asked me those same similar questions. And again, it's just about complying. I like to believe, even my team downtown, they'll tell you, I try not to let the brass on my collar dictate who I am. I dictate who I am. No title dictates my actions on how to treat people. I want to be treated in a certain way, and I do all I can to treat others that way, the same respectful way. And so, it's just a matter of just trying not to have some power being given to you and then go, jump off the cliff with it. Treating people disrespectfully, nothing good comes from that. Nothing good comes from that.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
we and that's all about, we try to teach our kids that. We try to, my job, and Steve Ice and Bryant, as well as Jermaine knows, when we go on the road, we teach the kids, you don't say nothing to the referee. Your job is to play ball and stay focused. That's my job. That, we all have jobs. We all, with our Harlem All-Stars organization, we all have a piece of the pie. My piece of the pie generally is to address the referees. I've been jumped on by the team because I got high blood pressure and sometimes I go a little too far. And, my wife and Steve and everybody, calm down. But my point is, that's my job. The kids understand that. They stay focused. They stay in the game. The coaches coach. Steve and I, Jermaine, Bryant, Butter, Steve Burt, they do an outstanding job in keeping the kids focused, details and so forth. And so we all have a role to play. And so the kids understand that. We're teaching them that you can't be in everything, so it's just a blessing to have Jermaine, Bryant, Steve Burt, Steve Ice. Herb is not here with us right now. He's another great parent and assistant coach. And so our organization, we got great men with us. Everywhere you look with our organization are great men, not good men, great men.
Well, that's a beautiful thing.
And that's what we try to instill in the kids.
And I commend you all because you guys, Kevin, Steve, Jermaine, Brian, Steve Burt, and rest in peace to the reason why you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? I just want to read some of the things. Like Gwen said, God had a plan for you, Jermaine. You should be a speaker for the community, our youth. And Kevin is right. Bring this to the academy. Stay strong, my brother. Steve Goldie Bill always been a good dude. Appreciate you. Don Edwards said, Bill, do you think being from the community helped you be a better police officer? Absolutely. But I was a real G from the Harlem, so it went hand in hand for me. I appreciate it. But Robert Grant said, Bill was community policing at his best. Thank you. I appreciate that. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I got Brian in the building. I got Kevin McBride. I got Steve Ice. I got Jermaine Grant. I got my co-host Kevin Branzetti. So Jermaine, I don't want to keep you guys so much longer, but I want to give you. So take us to where these officers now have been. All this thing has come to fruition that they're guilty for what they did. They falsified information. Give us some insight on their negativity, these bastards. And I call them out their face. That's what I do. You know what I'm
saying? First, I want to just say this. You made a statement about where were you, and one of the reasons why I was able to sustain a lot of dignity is because of my mother.
Respect to your mother. Shout out to the moms. Exactly.
When my mother found, and it was so funny because this was before the internet and things of that nature. So it was a rainy, wet day. So obviously everybody was home. Everybody was home chilling, watching TV. And my mother was actually they said breaking news hit about 10 o'clock. Breaking news hit on every channel. Shootout on a turnpike, 4 young men, and my mother was actually watching it. And my mother made a statement while my sister was there and saying like, oh my God, because they was just like 4 young men got shot by state troopers. It's alleged that they try to run the troopers over and things of that nature, but there's no evidence of that right now. And my mother's statement was, oh man, I'm gonna pray for them boys. I hope they're okay. Not knowing that she was actually watching
her son
on the situation. So that was kind of crazy. It's just one of the crazy stories. I mean, it's a lot of stories. So anyway, what happened is that while I'm in the hospital, my sister and my brother goes over to Reverend Al. My sister and father goes over to Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network when it was over here on Madison Avenue. So they walk in. So my sister asked to speak to Reverend Al Sharpton. So we talked to the assistant. The assistant was like, oh, well, he's in the back. He's not taking any meetings today. So my father was just like, no, we need to talk to him because something happened with my son and we need his help. So as Reverend Al was coming out, he was saying he saw a look in my father's face that said, my father kind of like, Rev, we need your help because my son.
The father probably was going to bust his ass.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was trying, to get to
shout out to your father for being that dude.
Yeah, exactly. He passed away in 2015, but he went to him and he said, do you know anything about the case of the 4 young men who got shot in the Jersey Turnpike the other day? And he said, yeah, I heard of it. So Reverend Al, he said, listen, I know my son couldn't have possibly done anything or been involved with anyone who would have been in that magnitude of the story, because we still haven't said anything to people, let alone the media. So he said, well, I'll look into it. So he looked into it, and all of a sudden he wound up coming to the hospital. So, but the thing with that is that at the same time, Johnny Cochran got word of the story. So when he got word to the story, one of the reasons he said he took this case, may his soul to rest in peace, was because of the incident that happened with him in LA while he was trying the O.J. Simpson case, when they pulled him over and they took him out of his Bentley Rolls Royce and put him face down. This was during the trial, the O.J. Simpson trial. And he said he felt the magnitude of the turnpike, what happened to him in LA during the OJ trial. So that's one of the reasons why Johnny Cochran, actually the Dream Team, actually Barry Shack, Peter Neufeld, David Ironman, Linda Kinney, Wayne Greenfeather teamed up and took this case. So it was kind of personal to him. So he dubbed DWB with racial profiling. So that word actually came from Johnny Cochran. And he was slick with the words. So it was the perfect storm for the situation. And with the force of,
he was definitely the ultimate lyricist of lawyers. Like he was the epitome of a lyricist, like a Nas, or you know what I'm saying, a PE. So that
was one of the reasons. And with the falsifying records cases, once they actually hired the forensic guy who from the OJ, the Asian guy Henry something, who did they shut the turnpike down for 2 days, and governors across the country was like, the only thing that shut the turnpike down was a storm. So they shut the turnpike down to do a reenactment. They did a 2-day reenactment on forensics, how the bullets came in, how we was laying. I mean, it got crazy to the point where a lot of people don't notice, to where they sent investigators to my old neighborhood to see what kind of kid I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? So it was deep in rap, as we would say. We didn't know the magnitude of what was going on. We didn't know that we was put into this type of situation. So once the investigation started, they hired some of the top investigations in the country, and the investigators started looking at the cop's background, which one of the state troopers' father was a superintendent. So he was already with the bullshit, getting away with the bullshit. So he was a rogue cop. And one of the other cops were up for Trooper of the Year. So he was doing the bullshit. So so they send investigators to people's houses that they serve tickets to. And they would knock on somebody's door and be like, I speak to a John Williams, and that person would be black, but they put the ticket in as white. And then all of a sudden they start going to other people's houses and noticing that every ticket that they put in as a white person wound up being black. So they was falsifying records, trying to match the numbers to say, look, we don't just pull minorities over, we pull white people over too. And once they found out that, that's when all the indictments and stuff, and the Christy Whitman and the superintendent said, yes, we do practice racial profiling. Yes, we do. And that's when the state of New Jersey became the only state in American history to admit it to practicing racial profiling.
Wow.
So, and then,
crazy.
all the legal stuff, and they, we never got arrested. We never got charged with anything. Me, Danny, and Rayshawn was in the hospital. Keyshawn was at the precinct answering questions. None of our stories changed. Everything remained the same. None of us had criminal records, no blemishes, no nothing. And then the state started to get investigated from the top to the bottom, from the governor, Christy Whitman, all the way down to the superintendent, all the way down to the state troopers, all the way down to pedestrians that they pulled over. So there was a lot that happened. During the process, we got at least 200 people exonerated from falsely being ticketed. We helped a situation with black law enforcement officers who couldn't prove there was racial profiling in the camp, as you stated about the 28th precinct. You can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? If I say, well, I don't like Kev, and because he's a white guy, because he does racial things, but he's a cop, so they're not going to believe me. So there was no internal investigation.
Yeah.
But with the Jersey, once that happened, they had no choice, because at that time Cochran knew the attorney general. So the attorney general was putting pressure on the state, like, y'all got to get this shit right. Y'all done fucked up. Not one allegation, no nothing. Like, these kids are perfect. Like, coming from our background where we grew up, Staten Island, Harlem, the Bronx, like, they gotta have something on them. They got it. Did they curse their mother out? Were they the reason their father left? Like, they have to have something. And once the investigation switched to the state of New Jersey, that's when everything just worked out in God's favor, in our favor.
But bless your heart, man. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I got Steve Ice, I got Kevin McBride, I got Brian, I got Jermaine Grant. And we're just talking about the shooting in 1999, where Jermaine was part of 3 others. 98. He was with 3 others, just going to basketball tryouts, and he was shot multiple times along with the other individuals. And these officers, these state troopers, was trying to camouflage and sabotage and do all kind of adjectives with this thing. Kevin Branzetti, I just want to ask you, after you hearing this story, and like, what do you think about these officers that took this oath and to protect and serve, and just tried to tarnish this man's career?
Bill, and we've seen, I don't know these officers from a hole in the wall, and I'm quite glad I don't. It sounds like that cowboy mentality, right? Like, there are cops who want to be so bad, want to be the hero in things, and they want to be in that shootout. There are cops who look forward to the day they get to shoot their gun. I am happy and proud I never fired my weapon. I could sleep well at night, every night, and I like to stay that way. But I heard you say something else though in there, Jermaine, and this is one of the things, Bill, we talk about that happened right after the incident. It's the cover up, right? From the bigger bosses on, who were doing public statements. there's not a. I can understand in the first hour or few minutes ago, and the cops said there was a shootout. There's not a lick of evidence there that there's a shootout, right? You can't make shit appear. Nothing was fired the other direction. No cop was hit. No cop car was hit. No, nothing else but your vehicle. But police departments, we try to make things disappear, right? Because we don't want the bad thing. That the chief, the superintendent, the colonel, whatever the title is, the head honcho, they don't want it because it's the end of their career, or possibly the end of their career. What these guys don't realize, it is absolutely the end of your career once you hide it, because it's going to come out. It may take years, it may take weeks, it may take months, but it is going to come out. And I said, well, this is one of those reforms we talked about, right? There's got to be a lot more openness after an incident. There are going to be times whereas we as cops, we make a mistake and it's going to be a tragedy. And we have to be open and say, we effed up today. We shouldn't have done this, and we'll work to move forward. And there'll be times where it's criminal.
Let me ask you a
we have to
question.
fess up.
Why do you think officers are not so inclined to do that?
It's not officers. This is bosses. This is executive management. This ain't cops on the street, right?
Okay.
This is police chiefs, police commissioners, corporals. Depends on the department. This is mayors. This is the upper echelon. They don't just go out because they know. I worked in police department many years. Ray Kelly was commissioner most of my career. I had other commissioners. Ray Kelly, if there was a cop shooting, wanted every bit of minutia in that shooting, right? Like he didn't want to know just like which Jermaine was in the back seat. He wanted to know how many bags were around his legs, what was touching his arm, where was his this, did he clip his freaking toenails that day? He wanted everything, and you could not leave a detail out. That's what the big bosses get. They get every detail. So for them to go on TV and say, this appears to be, something that it's not, it's just a load of bullshit. And what does it get us? And if you're the boss and you don't know the full story, you got to just say that. We don't know the full story. And then you got to get back to the public. But to come on TV and say something it ain't, you hurt every single one of us across the country. There are 18,000 police departments. You hurt them all in one shot.
Absolutely. Hey, Kevin McBride, let me ask you a question. From your standpoint and your agency, is there similarities to what Kevin Branzetti was saying? How the hierarchy kind of pushes it to the left and to the right?
No, I haven't experienced that at that level. We have post orders that we have to follow, and the officers need. We all have to follow those post orders, and if we don't, then you will be dealt with at that level. I've not experienced anybody at the higher level trying to cover something up. I have not experienced that.
Well, that's a good thing. Shout out to everybody that's watching. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I got some phenomenal brothers in the building that's doing some positive stuff. I got Steve Ice, I got Kevin McBride, I got Brian, I got Jermaine Grant. So we are just talking about a situation that happened in 1998 when four young men were just chasing their dreams, which we're told that's what we should do, is chase our dreams. And they had interactions with law enforcement, state troopers, and they were shot multiple times. And they tried to cover it up and tried to embellish the situation and make it seem like these individuals were wrong. And thank God that they are here today. But thank God Jermaine is giving back along with Steve, Kevin, Brian, and Steve Ice. Thank God somebody like Kevin Branzetti is willing to come in with me and on my podcast and tell people right and wrong. So everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I just want to read some of the comments. Vanetta said they should have thought about this shit a long time ago. No other bullets were found, but they're shaking my head. Mark said all all what he said is true. Just locked him up. But God will bring you to the open. Shame up. Mark put something in. Vanetta agreed with you, Kevin. Bam, it happened. Trust me. So let me ask you a question, Jermaine. So bring
Yeah.
us up to speed. You're in the hospital. You're recuperating. They investigated. They did all this crime scene situation. Take us only, and I'm only saying this because of time restraints. Give us some insight into how they found them to be guilty.
Well, they found them to be guilty because after all the hello?
Can I ask? Can we find out how they found you innocent first?
Go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's reputation and no criminal record. That's the first thing they do. Criminal record. Where were we going? Contact the college that we was actually going to find out. Contact the rental place. Did we pay cash? Those on that level. Like I said, back then I didn't know the magnitude. I didn't know the magnitude of how big it was. I was just like, I got shot. I was in the hospital. So I didn't know what was going on outside of the hospital until my parents and my family came to the hospital and saw me, and I'm seeing cameras and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So
how long did it take for the story to change? Because I said, you're in the hospital day 1, day 2, you're a criminal.
Yeah, well, yeah, they
when did it the handcuffs come off you and this change and go?
No, that's the funny thing. I never was handcuffed, never. But not even in the not even from the ambulance to the hospital. Never was handcuffed. The only person out of us that was handcuffed was Rayshawn. He was handcuffed because me and Danny was in critical. We got shot. We got flown to Camden Trauma Medical Center. Rayshawn went to another hospital that was nearby. Keyshawn went to the precinct to get questioned. He never was charged and he never got arrested. He just went to get questioned. And it took less than 48 hours for the story to change once people started saying, oh my God, like not them, like nah, like, and like I said, the magnitude of it, we didn't understand it. We was too young. We didn't know what kind of situation it was. So yeah, so it changed pretty quick. pretty quick. Yeah, to you, Bill. What was the question again, Bill?
Sorry, I ruined your train of thought there and we lost Bill.
Nah,
anybody hit rewind?
No, because what I was going to say before, I was going to say, I want to let the audience know that they never went to jail once they got shot. Once all the evidence was mounted against the state and the troopers, they copped the plea deal. They actually turned around and sued the state for teaching them to practice racial profiling. So that's the reason why they never served jail. They got charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and all other falsifying records. And they copped the plea, and they turned around and sued the state of New Jersey for actually teaching them to practice these type of practices. And they
how gangster is that?
Never served jail time. All they did was lose their jobs and got a $280 fine.
Kevin Branzetti, what's your thought on that?
It's one of those moments I wish my mute button didn't work and just stayed mute so I could just pretend I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
I did some reading on it last 2 days, and I need to do some more. It blew my mind because they were charged, they were indicted, and then it was over. The indictment against the attempted murder and all the assault stuff was overturned, was tossed, and then as part of years later, the plea deal was what? Yeah, it was the falsifying records. I don't understand that. I don't know what the proceedings were, what happened. Something to do with the prosecutor. Did something. Sounds like the prosecutor really effed up.
Jim Giroux.
And I wonder about that and how that went down.
The storm. They didn't expect it, because by public opinion, according to certain people who look at the skin color and say they must have a problem because they're black. So the storm, they didn't realize that that was their, like, us four was going to be their fate. They didn't realize. They just thought we was just criminals by human nature, as they say. So when you add that, and then you add the pressure of one of the most powerful lawyers in the country, in the world, and then you talk about the attorney general who sits next to the president, like, listen, y'all fucked up, y'all got to fix this shit. And that's the reason why they didn't want us to go to trial. They promised us a trial, but they promised that we could settle the lawsuit and go to trial, but they didn't want a trial because once they found out that
no, wait.
Once they found out
somebody coming back. Somebody's
you
back.
You gotta mute the other Kevin.
Yeah. Once they found out that, they was just like, if we give them a trial, New Jersey will never, and every state that did this kind of cover up will never recover, because that investigation will go from New Jersey to Philly to Maryland to North Carolina to South Carolina, and every cover up would have been exposed. So it was, and that's the reason why back then they didn't have dash cams in their car. They didn't have speed guns. After our case, it was implemented in the lawsuit that every car has to have dash cams, every car has the speed gun. So, just being proud of that type of change, just to know that, things haven't, is really not any different, because we're seeing murder on film, but it brings some type of solace to say, like we at least we help implement something, and we're still going forward with other laws.
Let me tell you something. I commend the fact that you even have that kind of ideology to say that you see the change has come. Kevin McBride stepped off. I'll ask you, Steve, and I'll ask you, Brian, and I'll finish with you, Kevin Branzetti. When you hear that change has come from this situation, what's your take on that? Because it seems like every time something happens, there is change, but the damn sure thing, we didn't want change to come from our dude. You understand what I'm saying? We're glad that he is here to see that change, reform has happened in this aspect. But Brian, give me some insight. What's your ideology on this change? And then Steve Ice, I'll ask you, and then Kevin McBride, I can ask you, and then of course I'll close out with you, Kevin. And then the beautiful thing about it is, Jermaine, I am so happy that you are here. I'm not going to hold you guys so much longer, but the story is so prevalent, and people are chiming in, and they got so much to say. Like I said, Don is here rocking out with you. This is what we do. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster, with Kevin Branzetti. I got Steve Ice. I got Kevin McBride. I got Brian in the building. I got Jermaine Grant. And I got, of course, my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. We are just talking about what happened in 1998. We are talking about these brothers that are coming together collectively to do positivity in Harlem and give back to the community. So go ahead, Brian.
Well, with the change, right? With the change, with the putting in the dash cams and everything that came to a positive light, we would hope that would change everything in a whole, right? But the negativity, or the negative part, is that even with all that stuff, you still, to this day, to 2020, it's still crazy, right? So you got people, police officers with dash cams, where you hear reports that they turn them off, or everybody has a camera on their phone and they're filming these things, and it's helping, but it's not really helping. So the fact that because of this gentleman and those four gentlemen and what happened to them caused these things to come to light, that's great. That's a great look and a great move. I just wish it would have been something that held that would have took precedent across the table where it would never ever hear any type of horror story like that ever again.
I appreciate that. Steve Ice, what's your thought?
Times have changed somewhat, but I think for every step that we've made a positive change, it seems like we've taken 2 steps backwards. Let me come back in here. Where am I? What I just did.
Hello?
Oh, here we go.
All right,
Yeah.
got you.
It's for me. It's kind of difficult to gauge that question, because I have seen some kind of changes over the years, but then things happen like a George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and it's like we're right back where we started. So I'm kind of on the fence with that phrase. Times have gotten better. Times have changed. And until this system actually, from the ground roots up, changes, we're still going to have these conversations.
And I respect that, Steve, because you know what? A lot of people don't feel things have changed. A lot of people feel that things have been manifested and fueled through, the president, and going back to when Obama was a president, people didn't like the fact that we had a person of color in office, and then the fact that somebody turn down your phone. So and then we have due to the president in hand, that he was very divisive. So there's a lot of things that have caused people to feel the way they feel. So I get everything that you're saying, Steve. So a lot of things haven't changed, and like I said, I give a lot of props to Jermaine for not having hostility and animosity in his heart. Because what's so funny, we as people, we feel, we have feelings, and men, I always laugh and make this joke. I always say men are more sensitive than women, because you mess with my family, I don't really know how I can feel about that. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate Jermaine, and I applaud you. That's why I said after today, you won't ever have to worry about being able to reconnect with me. Kevin McBride, let me ask you a question. What's your take on just this situation, and how law enforcement tried to cover this shit up? And I mean, please be careful with your verbs and adjectives, because I know you are still active. So I don't want to put you in any compromising situation. Leave that to me. Let me say all of the shit that I want to say. You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is, I need you there, and let me do what I do right now. Because as I say, they don't owe me anything, and I don't owe them anything. I am. This is no disrespect to any law enforcement officer listening in. I am not denouncing NYPD or any law enforcement agency. I am denouncing the negative and the bad officers that have put a tarnish on the shield that Kev McBride has worn, and Kevin Branzetti and myself have worn, and the shield that Jermaine Grant and Steve Ice and Brian have come to respect in their world, their life passings. So that's all I'm saying. So go ahead, Kevin McBride, give me some love, man. Tell me what you're feeling.
Wait,
I just want to. I'm just going to put it this way, simply. I pray every day. We pray every day for a change, and through the grace of God, the bad seeds, they're being weeded out. So we just gonna keep praying and keep fighting, and the bad seeds is getting weeded out.
Right. I appreciate that, Kevin Branzetti. Before I go back to Jermaine, anything you want to chime in real quick?
Yeah, again, Jermaine, thank you for the things you're doing and trying to do and looking. The issue, and this is one of the things Bill and I talk about a lot, that is, we make change, and you made change with New Jersey State Police, and you made change in New Jersey government. we're 18,000 police departments. And unfortunately, the change happens across a few or several at a time instead of 18,000 police departments coming together and having some rule changes.
Yes.
There was about 800,000 or so cops in this country. We don't even know the number, right? Like there's no, you Google it. Give me the exact number of cops work in this country. We don't know. We don't know the exact number of police departments or cops, which is kind of mind blowing. The overwhelming majority of great people who give a crap, who do things for the right reason. You know, and there's some bad things out there and some bad things that happen. But the change part of this happens if we do it on a national level. And we have to have some national standards and just best practices and rules and procedures that we should all follow. And on top of creating that, it has to be created by a group of us who are on both sides of the fence. It cannot be created by the fun police movement just as much as it cannot be created by the PVA of, you know, NYPD, right? Like we need a little bit of both in the room to come to smart decisions and doing things, you know, and I hope we one day get there. You know, I don't know how we get there. I don't know who's, you know, if somebody in the White House will finally, the light bulb will go off in their mind and saying this is the right change, or if we can, you know, push our agenda to people that have that kind of pull. But that's where it's got to be. It's got to be on a national level. Otherwise, we only keep doing small changes and you know, at a time. While they're great and heroic, they're not all that we can do.
Awesome. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I got my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I got Jermaine Grant. I got Kevin McBride. I got Brian. I got Steve Ice. We're just talking about perseverance, but we're also talking about a story that happened in 1998 with Jermaine and three others, just youth trying to better themselves, and they got stopped by some rogue cops. Now I call them rogue state troopers. And due to the situation, Jermaine and their the people that he was with have changed some laws and stipulations. I just want to read some comment. Gwen Mosley said, "Jermaine, trust me, it's called karma. One day they will get what they deserve. I am so glad you and your friends came through this. You are a great person, Bill. Your show rocks. I thank you. I appreciate you." Vanetta said, "Thank you for all the good cops for the protecting us." Thank you, Vanetta. We appreciate that. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. This is what we do. Jermaine, so give us some insight. Now, you said recently, you know, before we close out, I don't want to keep you guys. I appreciate you all for staying with us. But Jermaine, give us some insight. Now, reform has happened with the state troopers and dash cams and things of that magnitude. But tell us where we at today with these individuals. And you said you were going to meet them. What's the story with that?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. I just want to address the young lady with the word comma. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes I find myself to be in a weird situation with myself because I don't believe in karma. I believe in if you constantly do things, because I know people who've done bad things in their life, but they reform, they change themselves. You know, if you keep doing bad things, bad shit gonna happen. And you know, I just don't feel, because this is how I was raised. I don't like to curse. Like I don't curse people. Oh no, I curse like a motherfucker. But I don't like to curse people. I want to see the good in people. Even if you gotta find your way, or somebody gotta help you find your way and you don't know no better. Like somebody can help you get to that place. Whether you do it or somebody do it or God does it. You know, so but you know,
that's a testament to your parents. That's a testament to you. That's the testament why we are here to this day. That's the testament that's why we played ball. That's the testament why Steve and I and all the other brothers that we played ball with, and anybody. That's why Brian and Kevin and Steve Burt all these guys are still working with you or working with alongside you because of who you are, who your parents raised you to be. Like you are the prototype of what we say when the
but
village brings.
also my community, because people always say I'm not I'm you know I'm a product of my environment. Like I grew up in the same circumstances as the dude who sold drugs, the dude who decided to join a gang and do this. Like I say, I'm proudly a product of my environment, because my environment saved my life. The certain people around me helped me become the person I am today. So I am in debt. So that's the only way I can describe it. So where I come from, Harlem, and Saint Nick houses, in general, I feel like I don't have that same story as everybody. I wasn't the best ball player. I wasn't this. I wasn't on everybody's radar, but I had to learn on, as long as I do good by my people, then I made it to the pros. Like I became my own. I made myself into my own superstar. I didn't need the accolades of everybody else. And that's the reason why I remain who I am. Like, and people always talk about, you know, oh, money and this and that. I'm like, listen, I never made this in the NBA. I never sold records. This is blood money. You know what I'm saying? And
Well,
for
Don,
people
well,
who really don't,
Don said you was good, so Don just chimed in and said you was good, you was nice.
well,
You said,
that's only because he ain't send me that court officer badge. That's it.
yo, let me just read a couple of comments real quick.
I love you to death, brother. But yeah, you are not on time with the re-up on the badge, man. Because I'm gonna tell you this. When I used to get pulled over, right, and I still get pulled over. Matter of fact, I got pulled over last week. Steve can testify to this, right? So I used to get pulled over, but I always tell my kids, just know your rights. You don't have to antagonize, because you can antagonize the wrong person, and it can end up being a dangerous situation. So sometimes you got to talk people down.
Yo, let me ask you a question real quick.
Yes.
No, listen, Lord have mercy, bless your heart, man. I would have anxiety, just the story that you told tonight and stuff like that. So when you got pulled over recently, like you said, like I'll make sure I'll give you something to give you I'll give you a DA card. But like when you
Oh,
got
nah,
pulled
nah,
over,
nah. Yo, go ahead, finish. I'm gonna tell you.
yo, yo,
Steve,
yo,
no.
tell me that interaction. Tell me what happened with that shit, yo.
All right,
Please.
all right. So I'm coming into the city, right? And everybody likes to, and this is public record. Like, I can't lie about this shit. Like, all this lawsuit and they got this. No, you don't know. I tell people all the time, you don't know money until you get money. That shit is gone. I didn't know taxes was a real motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I ain't come from wealth. You know what I'm saying? But that's another story. That's another story. But I work hard. I became a physical therapist. I became a guest speaker. I'm a trainer. I got a lot of hats. Just because my shit ain't public, that don't mean you got to be like, oh, that lawsuit money. I'd be like, yeah, you ignorant. But anyway, let me tell you how I got pulled over. Right? I'm coming into the city. I literally just changed my car. Mercedes. So my lease was up. So now I got a different type of Mercedes, right? So I'm coming in. I'm getting off the I call it the Triborough. I ain't Robert F. Kennedy Bridge. No, it's the Triborough. God damn it. So I'm coming off. I'm meeting up with Steve, and I make a legal turn. So cop pulled me over. Whoop whoop. So I roll all four windows down. So I know protocol. So I'm smart enough. I've sat in a room with very intelligent people, very cunning, intelligent people. So I'm like, I know protocol. So I know how to talk. I'm articulate. I'm not naive. So I'm like, okay, roll all four windows down before y'all get here. Take out my registration, my license. And I just happen to have the court officer badge in the front, right? So you always get that question if it's not the big badge, somebody in law enforcement. And I was just like, oh nah, my cut, you know, I said, my brother, he's a court officer. I was just like, and that's the last place a cop who wants to falsify records to be in. And when you know how to articulate and talk, they kind of like, yo, how do you know that?
Exactly.
Let me not, you know what? Let me not fuck my night up or my career. So he's like, yo, who caused this? I'm like, yo, I'm 47 years old. What do you mean who caused? Here's my license, my registration. I was just like, well, I'm sorry. What, you want me to apologize? You want me to apologize for the car that I drive to you? Like, no,
Exactly.
like you can go back. And matter of fact, those two boxes on the back of your car, officer, can ping if I had a warrant or if this car was illegal. I'm sorry it didn't register with DMV yet because it's new. It's 2021. I'm sorry. So sometimes it's like, you know what? Have a good night. I'll be like, no, y'all want to hear more? So
Yeah.
that's not antagonizing. That's like, come on now. Like, why me? If those boxes on the back, and I'm smart enough to know that, it gives a police officer all the information that they need before they pull you over. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
Absolutely.
so when Steve said I was late to the meeting, I was like, yeah, I was late to the meeting on Friday, and I'm late to the meeting today because I always go through some bullshit out here in these streets.
Yo, and let me tell you something. I totally get it. Yo, Kev,
Yeah.
like what do you say? Yo, Jermaine, I'm so happy that you are just here. Blessings to you that you were able to tell your story. I'm glad that you were working with Brian. I'm glad you were Steve Ice. I'm glad you were Kevin McBride. But Kevin Branzetti, let me ask you a question. Now, let me flip this shit real quick because we only got a few minutes to go. Now, when you hear the person, a person that tells that story that I'm tired of the fucking man messing with me. You know what I'm saying? It brings validity to the stories. Like like and I'm sorry for officers like yourself. And I hate to be apologetic for officers like yourself that do the right thing. But what do you say to somebody like Jermaine that like this ain't you? Like you know what I'm saying? Like you ain't that dude, but your skin tone will tell another person that you are. You understand what I'm saying? How do you navigate through that system? Go ahead, Kev.
You just do, and you don't take it personal, right? If I had pulled people over and they've yelled at me like you did this because whatever, and I'm like, guy, you have tinted windows. I couldn't even see you when I put the lights on. Yeah, I don't know if you're a man, woman, or animal, right? But it's nothing to do with it. It's not personal, right? That's the thing. They're talking to the thing I'm wearing. Is the way I have to look at it. They don't know Kevin Branzetti, right? They're talking to a uniform, and I try not to get. There are days that bother me. There are days, you're not having the best of days, or somebody just really tweaks it well and says it right, and they get under your skin. But for the most part, they're talking to your uniform, and it's not you. So I can pass that by. Do I appreciate when I pull somebody over and they drop the windows? Hell yeah. Do I appreciate even more a good joke? Heck yeah. Right? No man ever got a ticket.
Steve
telling a
Ice
joke.
joke. Yeah, get in the car,
it's
right?
just like you just
that's funny, Kev, that you say that, because I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no.
it's just so much that I know about law. I know more about law than law enforcement officers. Like, it's so funny. Like, I should have been a cop. Like, I really should have been a cop because I had to digest on protecting myself when it comes to words. And when you use the word tint, I got pulled over when I had tint one time, and it was legal, but I just got pulled over because of the car I drive. And and then it's always the cop, and there's always the sergeant. And the cop, the cop who does the job says, "Oh, your tint's boom, boom, boom." I'm like, okay. They take your license, they go back, they come back and be like, "Can you bring your window halfway down, they put that box on it, right? So the sergeant he's just trying to see what the big dog trying to see what the pup is going to do, right? This is my analogy on it. So I'm like, oh, so you gonna give me? I said, you gonna give me a fundraiser ticket? So he was like, it's illegal to have these tents, right? I said, no, it's legal. I don't have limo tents. I just matched the back. That's all I did. So I said, once again, you can give me a ticket for the fundraiser. So the sergeant peeked in and said, fundraiser? How do you know that? See what I mean? It's like I tell people, just know your rights. So I said, you know what? So he took the box off and said, have a good night. Because I was like, it's not illegal. It's not against the law. Against the law means it's passed by Congress. It's passed by state. It's passed by governors and senators and legislators and the Congress people. I was just like, wow. So the best lesson I can teach is know your rights. Know when they are wrong, when they talk to you like they went through the course. It's like a cop saying, I can't be racist because we went through a 8-hour psych evaluation.
Exactly.
You mean 8 hours? It only took you 8 hours to say you're not a racist? So when I talk like that, people are very shocked. Like, you're not supposed to know that. And I'd be like, well, I have to, because if I don't, then you will get away with bloody murder.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is real. So, this is positive.
That's why I just say, know your rights and just know and be cordial, because I'm very cordial. And I'm like, officer, listen, I oblige by the law. Like, check everything. Here's all my paperwork. Boom. You only have 3 things you need: license, registration, insurance card. And if I committed any type of infractions, please find me for it. And I'll be glad. I'll know better next time. But I'm gonna show you the same respect you show me. And if you don't, then I'm gonna be like, hey man, get home safe to your family. Have a blessed night. That's all I can do. And when I bump into them cops all over again, they always be like, hey, I'll pull you over to say what's up. You all right? And I'll be like, yes, sir, I'm all right. How you and the family doing? You good? I said, I'm good, man.
So Jermaine, let me ask you a question. When are you supposed to have a face-to-face with these cops?
We right now, it's since 98, a lot of situations happen, we actually had this situation going on for a while. Actually the father of the state trooper who was a superintendent actually called me. The other state trooper used to reach out and just send good wishes and goodwill. And I didn't realize you young men with that I'm like, wow, this is not cool. Like, this is not, I mean, it's cool because I'm, after confined with certain people in my life and, saying, would you do it? I knew what I was going to do, but I needed my mother's approval. I needed people who I knew that would say, Jermaine, you know what? If change is going to come, it's going to come from you, because you're a better man than me. I couldn't do this shit. I'd be like, you don't think I want to put these bum motherfuckers in a room and fight both of them? Exactly. Of course. But I can't do that. That won't cause change. You know what I'm saying? So I got a daughter. I got kids who look up to me. I got young dudes in the hood who look up to me. You know what I'm saying? So I can't go away where they expect me to go because they just feel like, oh, if he can do it, then we can do it. Nah, I have to represent the right way. It's like you represent the right way or not at all. So, but
I commend you. I applaud you, brother. I really do, man. I know I got you guys on 3 hours. I appreciate you all. I'm gonna let you.
I'm glad I wasn't here for the first hour. No,
I know, but it's all good. But
I was actually on a meeting. I was in another meeting. I'm sorry, brother.
But no, the beautiful thing about it is you're welcome to come back. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna let Kevin McBride, I'm gonna let Brian, I'm gonna let Steve Ice, I'm gonna let Kevin Branzetti, and then Jermaine. Well, no, I'm gonna let Jermaine go first before Kevin Branzetti, and just give us some positive words of love and appreciation, whatever you want to say to the people out there in the world. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I ask you all to like it, share it. YouTube. This is YouTube. Subscribe to it. There's so many people out here shouting us out. Please, I ask you all to go back and read the comments. So, Kevin McBride, give us some words, some positive affirmation, anything you want to say. 2 minutes. Brian, Steve Ice, Jermaine, and then Kevin. Go ahead. It's on you, Kev.
I just
Big
want to
Brian.
thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And, you know, we're going to keep teaching the kids, and we got a good team together. And this platform that you gave us, it's a beautiful thing. And I just want to say thank you.
And you're always welcome back. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, Brian, go ahead, brother. Did I mute you or you muted yourself? Hold on, let me see.
I'm sorry, I muted.
All right, hold on, let me see. Got you.
You got me?
Got you. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a great show, great platform. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it for this evening. We are going to continue to do a lot of hopefully good work with these young men we have in Harlem, and teaching them in the ways of life and in the ways of the basketball court and stuff like that. I just had one quick question for Bill and Kevin. And it's just something that came up during the conversation was Kevin made reference to cowboys. And I wondered, is checking a cowboy or bringing someone back and let them know that you're doing that wrong, is that taboo, or was that taboo maybe in your day, Bill, or now, Kevin? Because I just wonder, like, if you see a cop or see someone that's doing it wrong or doing it where you see you could get yourself in trouble and you wind them back in. I mean, we don't hear that too much. We don't hear that too often.
I will tell you, you know, it depends upon the cops around them. There are plenty of cops who would say something. Look, I got chastised a couple of times in the locker room myself by older cops, right? Like I got brought downstairs and got a good tongue lashing on how to be a real cop. So it absolutely does happen. But, having what you think of somebody as, there as a cowboy mentality, you can avoid them. Right, there's gung-ho cops. Bill talked about myself, Leahy, and the other guy, Eddie C, who we worked together. We were gung-ho, right? We loved the chase. There was nothing better than I wanted to hop fences, climb abandoned buildings, run back alleyways after people, right? Like that to me was fun. Right? If I didn't get dirty trying to catch somebody, it wasn't a good day. But look, it's what I enjoyed. I ain't gonna sit here and lie about it. It was fun, but. So there's different kinds of cowboy cops. There were cops who, people like myself and Bill and others, we knew we just wouldn't work with, right? You just couldn't work with them. You can't, I don't know what you do with those guys, right? You can't fire somebody because you suspect they're a cowboy, right? Like if there's not a, like having a cop who does real misconduct stuff, who's a real effing racist or something along those lines, there's things that could be done. But somebody who you don't like their vibe, basically what you could do is, as the other fellow cop, you avoid them. Senior cop, you talk to him. Supervisor, you stay on top of them. But it was done.
Yeah. What's so funny, Brian? The one thing, like I always say, that the road cop, we didn't work around that individual. He knew how to quell his zest for a problem around officers that wasn't going to tolerate that. Officers back in the time when Kevin and I were working, we would check you internally. Like, when you say we get you in the precinct, be like, yo, the F is wrong with you, man. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say that we didn't see that. So did we hear about the officer that may have been heavy-handed or was a little disrespectful? Yeah, but we didn't work with him. So if it came to light that, okay, he brought in somebody that may have been bloody at the time, we were all like, see, there he go with that BS again. But we weren't there to see it. Now it was up to that individual to say that, I was a victim of police brutality or something of that magnitude, but we didn't see it, and we couldn't check somebody to say hypothetically, like, yo, I know you beating that man's ass, like, if but but if I see it, I'm a touch you. We didn't give that off. We just was like, yo, I'm not messing with you. You know what I'm saying? Like you just be like, yo, what's up? And we kept it moving, and then you might go to like supervisor and say, oh, okay, well, I'm just using Kevin and myself as examples. Say I'm the role cop, and Kevin, the supervisor, has to put us together due to lack of manpower. He says, yo, Branzetti, you got to work with Forster today. So Kev goes to the supervisor and says, yo, listen, Sarge, I really don't like rock with dude. Can you put me with somebody else? And he says, well, yo, Kev, I don't have anybody else to put you with. But, so Kev and I work together. But I know if I'm a bad energy, I'm not going to show that in front of Kevin because I know Kevin doesn't even want to work with me. So that's how that situation happens, Brian. We you put someplace, but it doesn't show. You know what I'm saying? And I always try to explain to people like that. A lot of times, we are not afforded. The good cops are not afforded to see the bad things, and I think a lot of times, officers, people always say, "Well, the good cops need to speak up against the bad cop." We do, we will, but we don't see it. Now, we're not sitting here just saying, "Yo, I think you don't want to put an allegation behind somebody's name unless you know they actually you saw it, because the bottom line is if I saw Kevin doing something bad, I had no problems calling IA and be like, yo, Kevin Branzetti is a piece of shit and he did this. Yo, you need to watch him because I saw it. But officers, and Kevin will contest to this, officers don't go on a record talking about other officers. They don't do that. That is just taboo. I'm not saying officers see something, but I'm just saying it's just taboo that officers just don't do it. I think another officer would try to check you internally before he goes and puts you on record, because the bottom line is it is almost like taboo to take another person's job. I hope I kind of answered your question with that, Bree. Brian. It's just a crazy situation. Steve Ice, what's your take, man? Give people some positive love and energy, man, before we go out of here.
Yes, indeed. Since we kind of touched on being a mentor and the importance of mentorship, don't people that are listening right now, don't stand on the sideline. Get involved in something. It could be a PAL. It could be being a mentor to a young teenager out there. Get involved in something. Just don't stand on the sideline thinking times are going to get better or you're going to complain about things. You can become the change, and it can start with something very small. So get off the sidelines and get into the game.
Steve, tell people where they can reach your organization at.
So again, right now, while we're waiting on our website to get up and running, Harlem All Stars YF123 at yahoo.com. That's Harlem All Stars YF123 at yahoo.com.
Jermaine, give us some insight. Yo, we appreciate you so much of what you're doing. I'm going to close out with Kevin, but Jermaine, let me tell you something. This show was really about you tonight, and you are the epitome of what a success story is. I'm sure Kevin can piggyback off that. I know you give back to your community. You were always a righteous brother. You were always a good gentleman. I am so happy. I appreciate Steve. I've always been in contact with Steve, but I did not know that you guys were doing this thing. I'm so glad I got reconnected with you. I know Don is in here talking about great job, you guys. He says, Kev, you're one of the good ones. This is just, people are so happy to see, Jermaine, that you are here, because you know what I'm saying. This was like a little small reunion for a lot of people that we didn't know. Steve, so Steve Ice, I commend your crew, man. You, Brian, Kevin McKnight, McBride, Jermaine, Steve Burt. I'm so happy to see you. And I just wanted people to hear your story, because the bottom line is, when we hear about things that happen to people of color, we hear about it when it's out there, but then all of a sudden it fades to black. And I didn't want your story to go for naught. And I wanted to bring it back out. And I think you needed your flowers now. I think people needed to understand that you were a good guy, weren't a bad guy that tried to claim bad things against the cops. You know what I'm saying? So let's get away with the BS on, oh, what was his prize because you didn't have any. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people always want to go back into somebody's record and be like, well, what did he do? Well, he didn't do anything. How about that? So, anything that you want to say, uh, anything that I can do for you, I am here for you. Like I said, Steve will give you my number, give me yours, so we can make sure to just keep in touch. You're always welcome back. Any of you are always welcome back to come back and join Kevin and I to just kick about anything that has to do with reform and change and law enforcement. I appreciate you all. So, Jermaine, just give us any words of love or
Well,
advice.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. First and foremost, Bill, I want to say thank you once again. Like, we spoke on Monday night, and like I said, if it wasn't for guys like you, Steve Ice, Steve Berg, Kev Mack, who Brian, like, just my big brothers. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know they're my big brothers. Like, inspirational, like, that allows me to feel like like this is the reason why God gave me a second chance in life.
Yeah,
because I may have left God, but God has never left me. And the trials and tribulations that I've gone through, I never let it turn me negative, or because I knew my mother will always say, well, he's doing that because of you, the young generation. So I just try to keep that. And, I walk with that. I don't try to keep it. I walk with it, because I don't struggle with improving in life. I really don't. I want to thank all your listeners, all the support. I love you guys, and I really can't. The only thing I can do is give you guys your flowers while y'all here, and I prove that every time, every day, every morning I get up. I have something to shoot for. My daughter, my life. You know what I'm saying? I thank God that I didn't have those, that suicidal trials and tribulations, and addicted to drugs and alcohol and things of that nature. I'm glad for that. So God has really given me a lane and a purpose to do exactly what I struggled on doing. And it took me a long time to figure it out, but he's never left my side. And I've never been in a situation. I've been in dangerous situations other than being shot, but I've never been in the situations where I felt like I couldn't survive it. I couldn't get out of it. So I just want to thank everybody, all the listeners. You can contact me on the Jersey 4 on Instagram. We're starting a foundation called Jersey 4 Assist the Pass. Harlem All Stars. I mean, we one entity. So whatever I do, like, I'm gonna make sure that we all are connected, because if it wasn't for y'all, it wouldn't be no me. And we all, as all four of us, and we realize that everybody is not going to have the same situation as us. Everybody's not going to, they are victims. Everybody's not going to have the access to the situation that we had. And we call ourselves four chosen for a reason, because we were all chosen for something. And vicariously it worked out, and I have no complaints. I'm just willing to wake up and find out what else I can be great at. You know what I'm saying? So I love all you guys, man,
awesome. I appreciate it. I love you, man.
Teammates and everything, man.
Let me tell you something.
I
Like I
love
say,
you guys, man.
We'll never lose connect. Thanks to Steve Ice bringing us all back to prominence. We will never lose connect. Kevin Branzetti, man, take us out with something love, man. What do you think about what he said? Anything? All the fellas? Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I mean, I think I've said it all about you, Jareen, tonight, right? Like, I couldn't have been happier, more honored than to meet you. this evening, right? Like that is a true pleasure. You are an inspiration to everybody. You know, it is it is spectacular what you have accomplished in your life at this point. You know, you have done more in this many years than you know the next 10 men combined, and that's really something special. You know, Steve, you said it right to everybody else. Get off the sidelines, do something. You know, change is something that could start with small things, where it can just be walking up to a cop and talking to him, and trying to change a local tone, or it could be something big, you know, and trying to change a national way things are done. But both are needed. You know, it's all part of it. You know, everybody can be a part of that part of what we're trying to accomplish here in life. I want to throw something a little odd, you know, out there for the New Jersey State Police. You know, I've done a lot of work with them over the last decade, and what I have found, the most professional people I've ever worked with, like probably one of my favorite police departments at this point in life. You know, and Jermaine, that's probably a lot to do with you, that they have changed into something that is admirable. I said I work with a lot of police departments. They are honestly one of my favorite ones to work with. I don't know if I could have said that 25 years ago. So, you know, there is a change that you have made, and things are moving in the right direction. We got a way to go, gentlemen.
That's admirable, because you're right.
And that is honorable because like I said, I'm not anti-police. I'm not. I've actually driven up the turnpike a lot of times, past 7-8, taking my daughter to Great Adventures many a times, and I looked at that one spot and I just kept going, and I realized how blessed I am to keep going. So yeah, it was a little shocking, and people always ask me, how do you feel when you're on the turnpike? Because we actually did a filming last week on the turnpike where film crew, we went to the exact ditch, and all I can say is I'm blessed. And I've literally ran into state troopers who literally came up to me at a gas station and said to me, are you one of the guys who was shot, you know, who was on the Jersey Turnpike incident? I'm like, yes. And they're like, can I shake your hand? I'm like, yes. And I'm like, for what? And it was like, thank you, because I was, you know, like, I hope you don't hold. I was like, no, I don't. I was like, you know, you're a good. I was like, I can tell you're a good man. You know what I'm saying? But I don't paint, as in the words of the late great Johnny Cochran, I don't paint everybody with the same paintbrush. I don't care what you did to me or what you did. You know, I mean, I just don't. You know, I don't hold everybody accountable. But you know, so like I said, I can't not use words other than blessed. I really can't. And you know, I was raised to love humanity. You know.
Kev, you got it. You got to say anything, Kevin Branzetti? You want to say anything else?
No, I think we said it all.
All right.
You know, and you're an hour and a half past your time. Bill.
Exactly. I just want to read
the missus must not be home. I haven't seen her walk behind.
She's home. Malika's home.
He's gonna get in trouble tonight.
I just want to read what Gwen said. I want to always say, Gwen said, I want to always see the good. Keep up all the good work, fellas. So proud of you all. Jermaine, you are a humble heart. We definitely need change in the world. That is for sure. Hold on, let me just read what else she wrote. God has a bigger plan for you. You are very special in capital letters. So glad you told your story. God bless. Good night. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I am your host, Bill Forster. I got Steve Ice, my dude. Steve Ice in the building. I got Brian in the building. I had Kevin McBride. I have Jermaine Grant. This story was all about him tonight. I got my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. Steve Ice, tell people where they can reach you. Jermaine, Brian, tell people how they can reach you. I'll start with you, Steve, and Brian, and then Jermaine. Go ahead.
Let me give you two ways. Harlem All Stars YF123 at yahoo.com, and you can reach me 347-432-3911.
Say it again. 34 what?
It's 347-432-3911.
That ain't no love line, ladies. Leave him alone. He married. Go ahead, Brian. Brian, how can people reach you and comment?
Well, you can reach me. Definitely reach me through Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Brian Els Burke, Burke is the last name. So once you put Brian Els Burke, you're gonna see me. My face will pop up, and we're getting that Harlem All Stars website up very soon. Hopefully before the end of this, in the next week, and then that'll be the next line of communication for me.
That's it. Because Steve Ice got to talk to Malika later on. So that's it. My wife, she do best. Jermaine, people want to hear your story. They want to follow you. They want to know what's going on.
Definitely. We got the documentary coming out. We tried it before, but right now, like I said, it's this time. We got the documentary coming out. Working on the feature film. Working on the webisode. We do guest speaking. Like I said, Instagram, the Jersey, the number 4. Jermaine Grant at gmail.com. Number is 917-280-6580. We starting our own foundation, Jersey 4, Pass to Assist. So we just out here working for the people, man, for the kids, because next generation up. And like I said, thank for the listeners. Yo, Donald, man, pick up the phone next time I call you, man. Dad, you want to talk to your brother.
Donald, he wants to holler at him. Donald, he listening. Donald, holler at him. Jermaine, just before we get out of here, how are you feeling? How is your body?
I'm blessed, man. Listen, man. Yeah, listen. The lasting effect of being shot 4 times is like, God damn, what is that? You step out the bed and you be like, oh shit, what was that? What happened in my dreams?
Yeah.
But hey, listen, man, I learned to live with it. Listen, I have no complaints. I'm here. There are people in wheelchairs. There are people who lost their sight. There are people who had things amputated. My man Danny got shot 4 times. The doctors told him they was going to amputate his arm. They was going to amputate my left knee. When things don't happen like that, you got to realize that you blessed and you got more work to do, because people need faith. They need faith. They need to be they need courage, and I don't have a problem with that. So I'll go through my shit on my own, but but other than that, man, I'm a rock to in the words of ball player of mine from my alma mater, Rice High School, Jerry McCullough. I'm a rock till the wheels fall off. I'm a rock till the wheels fall off, man.
Absolutely, man. Donald is laughing. Donald, pick up the phone when the damn man call you, man. What's wrong with you? love you, Donald.
You got my address. Where's my card? I got the badge. Even though the numbers done fell off, I still got it.
Well, I got a courtesy pad, a card for you too, a DA card. Yeah. Kevin Branzetti, man, take us out, man. Give us some positive. Tell us what you think about the show tonight. Anything, man.
I thought we did that already.
Well, I was going to let you finish it out. What
don't you want from me?
You can just say goodnight.
Say goodnight, gentlemen. It's time to say goodnight.
Hey, Kev. Hey, Kev, now you know what a black party is like. You be like, one more shot. Man, I thought that was the last shot.
That's what happens. White people be like, okay, good night. They say good night, they want to leave and shit. Black people, we want to still give shout out. We want to
Welcome to the brotherhood, Kev. Welcome to the brotherhood. Welcome to the brotherhood, man.
Yo, we want to give shout outs and love all the way. Everybody, I'm your host, Bill Forster. Yes. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I had Steve Ice in the building. I had Brian in the building. I had Jermaine Grant. I had Kevin McBride. I had my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. This is, Real Talk Chronicles on YouTube. If you like it, share it. Please, let me tell you something. I've run parties, thousands of people. The hardest thing I've ever had to do is do positivity. I thank you all. Thank you for the story. Listen, everybody, follow Jermaine. Follow the Harlem All-Stars, Steve Ice and Brian and Steve Burt and Kevin McBride. I'm your host, Bill Forster. Kevin Branzetti. We see you next week, man.
Hey,
Later,
man.
everybody.
Peace, fellas. Talk soon. All right.
Yeah.